Hello, this is Mason from the recording room, studio, and pretty much everything else at the moment. I'd just like to give a little second to my flatmate Joel, whose band's just released a new single on Spotify called Schooled. I'm going to give him a couple of seconds to say what he has to say, and I hope you actually want to listen to it and stuff, because it is a really good song, and I think a lot of people would like to hear it. So take it away, Joel.
Cheers, Mason. Hey guys, my name is Joel, and I am the lead singer of Hideout, an alternative rock band from Sheffield. We've just released our new single, Schooled, and would love it if you guys could check it out on Spotify and all other major platforms. Our YouTube channel, Hideout, has the song and the lyric video up there for you to go and listen to. If you like indie rock, alternative rock, Don Broco, Arctic Monkeys, Royal Blood, then we just might be for you. Cheers.
Okay, so thank you, Joel, for that one. Like I said, listen to it. I'm going to put all the links in the bio. So just go and look at that. And I'd like to say sorry this episode took so long to come out. We had issues recording the episode we wanted to record, so we sort of did this impromptu one. So we took a time and did this one instead. But the editing for this one's been a pain because the way we do it, we all record our own sounds and send them in. But I also record everything at the same time, so I can help line it up and stuff like that. But that went wrong because I couldn't hear myself, so it was really hard to sort of put them together. But I managed to do it anyway, so that's done. But we've got work and stuff like that as well, so getting around to editing was a hard thing anyway. But I hope it was worth it waiting to see this come out, so please enjoy. Hello, welcome to the Bad Opinions podcast. This is going to be episode 3. The first 2 episodes were pretty long.
Yes.
This one's going to be shorter. It's definitely going to be shorter this time. We're not just going to say that. Today we have me, Mason, we have Leon, and we have
Hi.
Brady.
Hello.
Say hello, Brady. There we go.
Brady is Canadian. Don't hold that
I'm
against him.
I'm a smelly Canuck.
No, we're just kidding. But yeah, Brady's
It's
awesome.
fine if you're not. Honestly, it's fine if you're not.
And yeah, so what's everyone been up to recently? Like since the last episode, I guess. Like in the past 2 weeks, what's everyone been doing?
Well, I've been playing Minecraft a lot with the lads.
Hell yes.
Because we had a server maybe a year ago. Oh, no, not even a year ago. It's like when lockdown first started, like the first lockdown in England.
Yeah.
We made a Minecraft server, and this was just before the Never update came out.
Okay.
And we swore we was going to wait till the Never update to come out and then update and then play that on the server. But the server died like really quickly because we played it so much.
Jesus.
But since we started a new server like a week ago, and we're having a lot of fun with that right now.
Awesome.
So yeah, that's what I've been doing.
Yeah.
Should have been doing uni work, but you know. Well, I have been, but not as much as I should be.
Yeah, ain't that how it works? So it's just like, yeah, you want to do work, but you're just like, nah.
Man, priorities.
Priorities. Yeah. What have you been up to, Brady?
I've been talking to you on the phone. I've been
Oh,
watching
yes.
shitty, awful movies. And
Hell yes.
I've been playing Tony Hawk's Pro Skater.
Good
How
game.
awful were the movies?
Well,
Well,
we watched.
today. Who should go?
You can explain what we watched today.
Okay. Yeah, you gave me a call earlier today because I was up earlier than usual, and both of us just had fuck all to do. So we were just shooting the shit, and we got the brilliant idea to watch Garfield, Bill Murray
yeah.
Garfield, and so it's on Disney Plus here, but it's not in the UK.
Yeah,
And-
I legally watched it, of course.
Yeah, wink, wink.
Yeah.
Legally watched it, and I watched it on Disney Plus, and I thought it would be a brilliant idea to set the language setting to Italian, and
Oh, yeah.
I put the subtitles in Spanish. So no matter where I was
So-
looking, nothing was in sync with what I was watching, and I was watching it on my phone while my phone was on my bench next to my bed. I was just laying in bed like, fuck this film. Why did I do this?
You gave up after
Yeah.
like half an hour, didn't you? Like 20 minutes.
It was probably more like 10 minutes.
Yeah, it was
My God.
not a good
Either-
film. It's
Either way,
it's
I
awful.
did not last long.
No, it's a very bad film. I thought it would be like amusingly funny, and there are moments which are kind of funny just for how little Bill Murray actually cared, but overall it's just a really painful experience.
Yeah.
Mason,
Oh.
have you ever heard the story of Garfield, like the circumstances under which Bill Murray recorded?
No.
Bill Murray never went on set once. During the entire production, Bill Murray was never once on the set. And
Wow.
he was in his apartment, I think it was his apartment in New York, and he was filming The Life Aquatic, the Wes Anderson film, and when he would be at his apartment, he's just like, fuck it, I'll record lines for Garfield.
That's amazing.
I think the best story to come out of it, not just that, is also, do you know why Bill Murray signed on for the project in the first place?
God.
No.
Oh my god, it's amazing. Are you aware of the Coen brothers that did like There Will Be Blood? No, they didn't do
There Will Be Blood.
No Country for Old Men. Sorry, I get those two films mixed up. They did like The Big Lebowski. They did
Right.
they're like really renowned for being like solid filmmakers, and they've got some
Right.
great films. So anyway, the director of Garfield is called like Ethan Coen or something, but like
Yeah, it was
see-
the writer, Ethan Coen, but it was
Ethan, right?
yeah, but it's
Yeah.
like a completely different person. But he thought the Coen brothers, who did The Big Lebowski, were making a Garfield film, so he signed up for it, and then realized it was just this like hack who's only ever made garbage films, and then he just stuck through anyway, which I find hilarious.
That's so unfortunate.
Oh.
But I suppose once you sign up, you sort of have to go through with it.
Yeah, it's so funny though. But yeah,
That's amazing.
don't watch Garfield. In terms of me, I've had a very weird week. Like in the past week, yeah, it's just been very strange. I don't want to put a downer on the mood, but I had a friend pass just over a week ago, which was horrible, and it kind of
Yeah.
like demotivated me to do anything whatsoever. It was really horrible.
Right.
So like I think I've mentioned it before on the podcast, but I watch a film a day. I think you've known I've been doing that for a long time.
Oh
And
yeah.
I gave up.
Sometimes more than one.
Oh, sometimes. Yeah, but I gave up. I've not been watching films much recently. In the past
Yeah.
week, I've watched 2 films, and those 2 films are Clerks and Garfield.
Yeah.
So it's been a very
Wow.
it's been a very odd week or so. But I'm finally kind of like getting back into the groove. I recently hit 100
Yeah.
subs on YouTube, which I'm so
I saw,
happy about.
Yeah, I saw your video.
Yeah,
Woo!
I'm very happy about that. I didn't expect.
Didn't hear
that to
my
happen.
shout out though.
Ah, sorry. I
only
did.
joking.
I replied to your comment. No, it's weird
I
because
did. You did. Sorry.
what Brady? Weren't you speaking about Inspector Gadget the other day?
I was.
Yeah,
The reason
because
we're talking about like Garfield and Inspector Gadget, I do have a bit of a fascination with like awful kids movies.
Mason commented because I'm doing a giveaway on the channel, and I was saying, subscribe to the channel and tell me your favorite film from the year you were born. And didn't you put Inspector Gadget, Mason?
I put a bunch of funny movies.
And Wild Wild West and Stuart Little. I remember those two.
Yeah, I put
Hey,
put
don't
put
be shitting on
3.
Stuart Little. Don't be shitting on
I
Stuart
put-
Little.
I put Inspector Gadget. It's the best 99 has to offer. Then I put Wild Wild West. Then The Mystery Men, because I actually really do like the Mystery Men film. I think it's actually a pretty fucking good movie.
I've never seen it.
It's really funny. Or at least I remember it being funny.
Yeah.
All I remember about Mystery Men was there was some sort of music video. It
It's
was it's Smash Mouth, wasn't it? Wasn't it?
Yeah, it was All
All-Star?
Star. All Star
Yeah,
was
yeah,
the
it
was
music
All-Star.
video.
For some reason, I was thinking of Ben Stiller in music videos, and I was like, am I thinking of Limp Bizkit's Rollin'? Because Ben Stiller's in that, and I was like, was that Italian for Mystery Men? But
Yeah.
I think it's just my dementia catching up to me.
Oh, maybe. But yeah, I put Stuart Little last. But pretty good movies. Gotta
Yeah,
say.
absolutely amazing. You're eligible for the giveaway, of course. Like everyone who comments is eligible. So yeah,
I have to ask though, if it's me, if it turns out to be me on the randomizer, please give it to someone else.
Yeah,
I mean,
Brady.
yeah. Well, it's sorry. Unfortunately, it's UK only. I'm broke.
Oh,
I can't
you
afford to ship to the
bastard.
US right now, or like Canada.
You
But
think
Yeah,
that-
I don't want it to be given to me, like at all.
okay, that's fine. If it lands on you, I'll spin again for someone else. But
Yeah,
thank
and
you
it'll
for the
land on me
support.
again because I'm cursed.
You know what?
Thank you
You're-
for the support regardless, though, on the channel. Like I appreciate it. And anyone who's listening who watches my videos, thank you for subbing. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Mwah. Yeah. Besides from that, though, I rewatched Euphoria, a TV show, a HBO show from last year.
Is that what you was watching before podcast?
Yes. So really weird because I finished rewatching it about 3 days ago, and now I've got my sister watching it, and then she's like on episode 4, which is probably my favorite, either that or the final episode. So I was like, yeah, okay, I'll rewatch that episode again, and then I ended up watching episodes 4 and 5 with her, and it's honestly fantastic. I'm gonna work on a video for it eventually and talk a bit more in depth about it, but I just love that show so much, and if anyone hasn't seen it already, go watch Euphoria. It's incredible.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? Speaking of bad kid movies.
Oh boy, my
Shark
favorite.
Boy and Lava Girl has a series coming out on New Year's Day.
Yeah, it's like a standalone sequel
Oh
to
no.
Shark Boy and Lava Girl, and
they're old and they're in love and they have a kid.
It's
You know what,
called
man?
like We Can Be Heroes, I think.
Yeah, so see what they've done is, and this really surprised me. They haven't upgraded the CGI at all.
No,
it
it's
still looks exactly the same.
It still looks just like it was made in Robert Rodriguez's garage on a green screen.
I mean,
I
That's
don't
always-
understand why.
it's
That's
weird
always
because
how I imagine this movie's being made.
it's
always
very
pictured it.
sorry. It's very weird because Robert Rodriguez has like experimented a lot with that kind of filmmaking. Sometimes it just hasn't worked. So like Spy Kids 3D, Adventures
talking
of
shit
Shark
about
Boy
Spy
and
Kids?
and Adventures of Shark Boy and Lava Girl. But people seem to forget that like Sin City almost does that exact same thing and is a fantastic film. So it kind of works. Like the fact that I think like 90% of that film is entirely green screen. Like it's just like green screen backgrounds and backdrops and everything. But that film looks so beautiful because it's so stylized. And then you get
It
stuff
actually-
like
go
Spy
ahead.
Kids. I was just saying it's the one good looking film out of Rodriguez's weird like green screen films.
Well, I was just gonna say that movie, like as we know, Spy Kids and Shark Boy and Lava Girl, they didn't look good when they came out, but like
No.
they aged like milk in the sun. And I was doing some digging on Sin City, and it turns out that it won an award at Cannes for
Really?
visuals. I think it was Cannes, and it was something for like an achievement in visual effects. And
It is a
Yeah, so
very
yeah.
pretty film though.
so it turns out like 2005 was when Sin City came out, and like I think no, I'm wrong.
Like-
2 years before he won an award at Cannes, because I think Spy Kids 3 was 2003.
Yeah, Spy Kids
Um,
3 was 2003.
For some reason, I was thinking it was 2006, but let's say 2 years after Spy Kids 3D comes out, the director of that wins an award at Cannes for visuals.
Incredible. Very proud.
Spy Kids deserved it though. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Speaking of excellent films that are going to age like milk, do we want to get into the discussion of
Oh boy.
the
Right.
film we watch?
Oh God.
Who
The
wa-
movie we are talking about today
Ah!
is SpongeBob, Sponge on the Run.
Yippee.
Okay, so first, before we say anything about the film has a clickbait title. SpongeBob is not a sponge on the run whatsoever in this film, and that's just one of the many issues I have with this film. Now, here's the thing. Every film we've spoke about on the podcast so far, we've been like, oh yeah, it's really good. Oh, Megamind, really good. Oh,
Yeah.
Buffalo 66, Rango. We spoke about some good films. Not this one. I hate this film. I hate it so much. My audio
I
is
hate-
peaking. I'm sorry, but
Yeah,
I got
I
really
hate
mad
the
about this.
reasoning for this film.
Yes.
And I hate a lot of the points they made in the movie as well, and sort of like the retconning they did.
Oh,
We'll
God,
get to that
yeah.
much
Camp
later.
Coral.
Camp Coral.
Coral.
No.
So my real hatred for this movie comes from like the reason it was made. So
Oh yeah, it's so like what is it?
ham-fisted.
Yeah, ham-fisted and money
Almost
grubbing.
cynical.
Cynical, yes, that is a great word to describe it. It's like it's super cynical because for those who don't know, is it Steven Hillenburg, the creator?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, he never wanted like any spin-off shows of any sort for SpongeBob.
Yeah.
And essentially all that Sponge on the Run is kind of like a glorified advertisement for an upcoming spin-off show that Nickelodeon waited for Steven Hillenburg to die and then announced, which is just shady as fuck.
It was only
horrific.
a few months after too. It was like
Yeah.
it was something like 4 or 5 months after Steve passed away, and it's
Yeah,
like,
it's
hey,
horrible.
It's horrible. Literally 4 or 5 months. They sort of teased it, didn't they? They sort of like
Yeah.
gave a screenshot of like young SpongeBob, I think.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, "Oh no, what are they doing?" Like, sure, I mean, do a short of young SpongeBob doing something, but he's already in the TV show in the first few episodes in the first season. He already built up the characters and showed how they met.
Yeah.
In the first episode, SpongeBob's already friends with Patrick, but he's going to get his job.
Yeah, not even
Like,
just
at the Krusty Krab. It's like,
not even just that.
What?
He meets Sandy in like one of the first few episodes, from what I recall,
Yeah.
and they have like their own interaction then. But they've never met prior to that episode in the show, and now they're completely retconning it and being like, "Oh, they all went to
horrible.
this camp and met." And we'll get into that later about the actual camp thing. But the actual release and production of this film is just super baffling because it came out when did the Sponge Out of Water came out, like 2014, I want to say.
Yeah, it was 2014.
Yeah, so it was like 6 years ago. And then they announced this film a year ago with a completely different title. So it's called Sponge on the Run Now. It was previously called Have a Wonderful Sponge or something, or It's a Wonderful Sponge.
It's a Wonderful Sponge.
Yeah, and the marketing was so bizarre because they were essentially like advertising it to people who like trip and take LSD. Like there's this really weird poster that Mason, I'll send you if you want to like put it up on the screen or something.
yeah.
But it's just like
the one where he's in the middle and it's like all
like LSD trippy and everything,
Yeah.
and it's like this is going to be a trip or something, and I'm like, I understand people find SpongeBob entertaining under the influence, but that is not the kind of marketing you really want to be giving out to your family-friendly kids film in the first place. But then
And it's
they
so weird
complete
too.
yeah, it's so weird.
It's
It's like
so weird because the film doesn't feel like that at all. Like the
No.
film doesn't have any of that crazy colors or anything psychedelic at all.
No.
Which is funny because the previous film felt like it was on acid. Like Sponge,
Yes.
Sponge Out of Water has some wild scenes. It has
it's
some really
absolutely
crazy,
bonkers.
weird scenes. But then you get this, and it almost feels like it could be like any other kids movie.
Yeah,
And
it doesn't
I
feel
know-
like SpongeBob.
And I know we're like grown men bitching about SpongeBob, but we can't deny the fact that the original SpongeBob movie, it does hold up.
Oh, it's
Yeah, it
amazing.
does,
I
yeah.
watched it about a year ago, and it's so
And
funny still, and just so
we may
well
just
made.
be grown men talking about SpongeBob, but we were kids when SpongeBob first aired.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Or like the right age to be watching it. So it's kind of like the spitting on the older fans just so they can get like a younger audience. Which
SpongeBob
doesn't make sense because SpongeBob could connect with a younger audience no matter what.
Yeah,
And SpongeBob in more recent years has also kind of pandered to, well, not really recent years, but like ever since probably the seasons after the movie came out, like the first movie.
So, yeah.
yeah,
It's definitely going for like more of a kiddie audience. And
Well, they
and-
changed the animation style and everything to be more like
yeah, but oh, sorry.
cartoony, if that makes sense. Like, so everyone's sort of like more malleable, so they like changed the body parts a lot more and stuff
Yeah.
like that. There's an episode where Patrick keeps scaring Squidward to get his ink or something for lemonade, and he scares him and he turns into a tap and like starts spraying ink out of his nose, and I was like, okay,
it's gone a little bit gross out.
Yeah,
it's going very gross out. Yeah,
it's really weird because I think Brady, you were actually telling me this, but wasn't like the first SpongeBob film supposed to be like the end of SpongeBob as a franchise? Because you had like the free TV series, you had the 3 seasons, and then the film came out, and that was supposed to be like the end because what happens at the end of the first SpongeBob film? Like it's like everything's like wrapped up perfectly in a little bow, isn't it?
Well, yeah, what happens at the end is like SpongeBob becomes the manager of the Krusty Krab 2.
Yes.
And what it was Steven Hillenburg, as you said, wanted that to be the ending, and that's why it had the ending that it did. And the film, I believe, was directed by Steven Hillenburg. So
I will
it's what he
now.
wanted. It's what he wanted. But unfortunately, SpongeBob is a massive cash cow.
Yes.
And because of that, Nickelodeon refused to cancel it, and then
there's a lot of like evidence that points toward them being cash hungry.
Oh
With
yeah.
like was it Fairly Odd Parents? They
Oh,
absolutely
Jesus Christ.
rinsed. So much so, was it Butch Hartman, the guy who
Butch
created
Hartman.
that? He had to bring it back twice and made like two changes where they added a baby character And then a later series, he added a girl who he had to share the fairies with,
And he added a
and
dog
also
too.
a dog.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's
and
kind of like they just came up with reasons to kind of like push the cartoon further than it was supposed to go.
yeah, it's really weird because obviously it's a Nickelodeon film, and it's distributed by Paramount and produced by Paramount, and Paramount have not had the best few years. So
No.
I understand from like a corporate perspective, they're like, oh hey, SpongeBob makes money. And even if this film was absolutely garbage, this film could have made some money. But the way they've chose to release this film is honestly one of the strangest releases I've ever seen for any sort of media ever. So I'm going to quickly explain to the audience if they don't know. So originally, Sponge on the Run was supposed to come out in theaters like earlier this year, I believe. Like I think it was supposed to come out like midway through the year, like sometime like June or July, but then COVID happened. So it was delayed. But it wasn't delayed entirely. So it was originally supposed to just be a theatrical film everywhere. You'd be able to see it in the UK, Canada, America, China, all that stuff. But what happened? It was delayed, but in everywhere apart from Canada and China, where it released theatrically in August in the midst of a global pandemic where even Tenet couldn't even make a major profit. So it bombed in Canada and China. Currently, it's only made 4.8 million on a $60 million budget, which is incredible. Then they announced that it's coming to CBS All Access, which is Paramount's streaming service, in 2021. But they also sold the rights internationally, everywhere in the world apart from Canada, the UK, and China. Canada, America, and China, to be like a Netflix original. So it's available online right now. It's not even available to rent in Canada anymore, and I don't even think it's in theaters anymore, because obviously theaters are all up in the air right now. So you can't legally watch it in Canada right now. You can't watch it legally in America until next year, even though pirated copies will no doubt have made their way online thanks to it being a Netflix original. The film's absolutely bombed. It's a disgrace to the SpongeBob like IP and franchise and Steven Hillenburg. And their Paramount are probably like, why did this film do bad? It's like the most messy release I've ever seen for a film, because everywhere around the world it's like it's split off onto different streaming services, or you can only see it theatrically in Canada. I don't know why only in Canada you could see it theatrically. It's really bizarre, but yeah.
I think it was because like around the time that it was coming out, we kind of had our shit together when it came to COVID.
Yeah,
Things are obviously getting worse now for any listeners that are aware. But it's been in theaters since I think August.
Yeah, it was like August 14th.
I think it just recently left. I think that was probably around then. But Paramount claims that they recouped the entire production cost. So
I mean,
good for them, I guess.
Yeah,
but...
they probably recouped it by selling it to Netflix, because I know they did.
What it was.
Yeah, they did the same thing with the Cloverfield Paradox, didn't they? Because they knew they had a stinker on their hands there, so they sold it.
I don't know what that is.
Oh, it's the third Cloverfield film that was announced at the Super Bowl, and it premiered the same day. But it's like an absolutely terrible film. Like, it's really bad. It's got nothing to do with the Cloverfield IP whatsoever. And it was originally a completely different film called God Particle, which was just like a sci-fi thriller. And then they attached like little bits of Cloverfield lore to it.
It's a shame, because I really liked Cloverfield 1, and I enjoyed 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Yeah.
And ironically, 10 Cloverfield Lane was the same thing. It was a different movie that was
it was called like The Cellar or something.
Yeah, it was The Cellar.
At the end, it was
like
pretty much
it was like aliens
tied into it.
Yeah. It was like very loosely tied in.
And the funny thing about it too is that it's interesting how the Cloverfield paradox doesn't work, but 10 Cloverfield Lane works. And it's funny because they're both going for kind of the same thing. But I think they just picked a bad movie, and they were like, hey, we can just put the Cloverfield name on this and sell it. And that's very much what it was. Put it on the Super Bowl, people will be like, oh, this is exciting. And after that, you got yourself a stinker on Netflix.
Oh yeah, and I think it kind of like destroyed the Cloverfield franchise as a whole, really, because around I think it was like a year later after Cloverfield Paradox, or no, it might have even been the same year, but Overlord came out, which was another Paramount film that was produced by J.J. Abrams, and there were rumors circulating for a very long time that that was actually going to be a Cloverfield film as well. But I feel like with the Cloverfield Paradox, like not really making much of a profit because it just went to Netflix, and also having terrible critical and general consensus reviews and whatnot, they've kind of abandoned that franchise, which makes me sad. And it kind of goes back into the fact that Paramount have just had a really bad few years. Like, there's always like the Mission Impossible film that comes out every few years that will make them some money, and Transformers, but I don't even think Bumblebee made much money, so they're
Yeah, Bumblebee
losing
did okay.
money. I don't know how well it did in comparison to the other films, but even then, they're just not making good choices right now, like Paramount at all. And then they make a really bad and almost like offensive SpongeBob film. And again, it sounds silly that we're complaining about a film aimed at like children, but it's just like SpongeBob, even though I wasn't like somebody who like obsessively watched the original seasons or anything, I still have a strong connection to it, and I think a lot of people around my generation, or like just like around our age, like the, I don't know, like 18 to like 20, 23 age gap, we all have like a lot of affection for SpongeBob as a brand, as an IP, and just to see it be like dragged through the mud like this really sucks, and it like really hurts.
And considering we're all kind of taking a giant shit on this movie, and deservedly so.
Yeah. Oh no,
there is
absolutely.
one thing. Yeah. There's one thing about this that I'd like to point out.
Okay.
So the director, Tim Hill,
Oh.
he worked on SpongeBob in 1999 on the first season.
Yeah.
And then I think he came back around the time of season 4 or 5, and then he left in 2007. So he has experience with the IP, and he was a story editor in the first movie. I should mention that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but do you also know what films he directed?
That's just about what I was going to say. Mason, do you have any idea of what Tim Hill's history is as a director?
No, I knew he was we worked in SpongeBob before.
All right.
Look at his
little
Wikipedia page right now.
I can name them off for you right now for the audience.
Oh.
All right, so we got 1999 directorial debut, Muppets from Space, which I haven't seen, so I'm not.
I've heard it's one of the weaker Muppets films.
Yeah,
he worked on
not the best.
He worked on Max Keeble's Big Movie. I don't know what that is. And then he was a story editor in the first movie. He directed Garfield 2, which is great because that ties back to our conversation earlier. He directed Alvin and the Chipmunks, which we stand Jason Lee. Let's be real.
My name is Earl.
Yeah. Exactly, we stand Jason Lee. He directed the classic Russell Brand children's comedy Hop, and my personal favorite on this entire list, Grumpy Cat's Worst Christmas Ever.
Which
I hate that movie.
Why have you seen it?
Why have I seen it? Because I have a younger brother. That's why you've seen it.
You should have yelled at him if he suggested putting that on. And he also directed the new. He directed The War with Grandpa, with our boy Robert De Niro.
Robbie De Niro.
And
what? Mr. De Niro, what are you doing?
It's like a really bad comedy.
First you're in fucking Dirty Grandpa, where you're jerking off, and then like 3 years later you're in The War with Grandpa.
Absolute amazing career choices. Doesn't Robert De Niro like say the N-word in Bad Grandpa?
All I know is he jerks off, and I'm not proud of the fact that I know that. I haven't seen it.
I've seen one clip. I've seen one clip from the film where he's like at a bar or a pub or anything, and he looks at a bunch of black people, and they say, "Oh, call us something," and then he calls them the N-word as a joke, and they cheer as if he did something good, and I'm like, Bobby, what you doing, man?
What are you doing, man?
You know what? At least he was in The Irishman. We can give him that.
Yeah.
He did something good within the last decade.
Let's get on with the Sponge movie.
Do we have to?
I mean, it's really short. Like, it's such a short section. It's says SpongeBob and Patrick embark on a rescue mission to save SpongeBob's pet snail Gary, who is being snail napped by King Poseidon, traveling to the lost city of Atlantic City. The movie reveals the origin of SpongeBob and Gary's meeting for the first time as children.
Okay,
Everyone else.
right. So, yeah, this film is really weird. So, as previously mentioned, it's kind of a retcon. It kind of completely retcons previous stories, and then just tries to tell the same stories from the first film and the first few series over and over again. Just this time it's like absolutely horrendous. We haven't even mentioned the animation style. So it's not 2D animation anymore. It's this really gross 3D animation. At least I feel like.
I'm gonna say I don't mind the animation. The animation looks fine to me.
It looks fine
until I've explained my main issues are the premise of the reason the movie was made, and like sort of the whole thing of it.
It looks fine until you see Sandy and you see her realistic fur textures.
No, I do agree. Sandy looks strange.
And
anytime they do any cartoony stuff like the SpongeBob pupils going small, people's faces changing, Plankton morphing for some reason.
Plankton's really smooth in this movie.
Yeah, they don't look great in a lot of shots, but otherwise the animation is fine, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm not huge on it, but I can understand why people wouldn't mind it. It just gives me too many like Illumination animation vibes. Like I'm not a fan of Illumination style. I think it's super lazy, and this is just trying to kind of mimic the Minions or just something like Despicable Me, just because those films are cheap and profitable, and that's what I feel like they were doing. Do you know who did the? Oh, sorry.
You know, with Despicable Me and Illumination's animation and stuff,
yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised the way they make people in that movie that they just have a character creator from a game or something.
Yeah, like some Unity assets or something.
It's just straight up Unity.
Yeah, it's so weird. And the director Tim Hill, he actually worked on Hop, which was an Illumination film. So it's not too. I don't think it's like reaching just to say maybe I don't know the time he worked with Illumination might have had a bit of an impact, even though that's their only truly live action film, Hop, which just anyway, not a Hop. We don't like Hop, but yeah, Sponge on the Run is just really weird. The cinematographer is the what's his name? Larry Fong, who actually works on all of Zack Snyder's films. So he did like Sucker Punch, 300, Watchmen, Batman v Superman, and it's just very strange to see that man work on like an animated film. And although I'm not a huge Snyder fan, at least he has a visual style, which I wouldn't say this film has. It just looks like the most run-of-the-mill animated family film you could imagine, really. I don't think there's anything truly stand out about the not the visual effects, the animation design or anything, or just even the art direction or direction in particular. It feels super, like, standard, and that's not really what SpongeBob is. I wasn't even a huge fan of Sponge Out of Water, the second film, but at least that film tried some new things and had, like Brady was saying before, it has some interesting visual styles that just, it makes you feel like you're tripping. Like, some of those sequences are just bonkers, but this film doesn't.
I'd say with Sponge Out of Water, though, at least it's sort of like its own contained story.
Yes.
And they're not trying to change anything. They're just using the characters and giving them their own thing.
Yeah, it's more or less just like, the first 2/3 of that film are just like a long SpongeBob episode. And there's some genuinely funny moments. Like, I laughed a lot during Sponge Out of Water. But then when it turns into like a superhero film towards the end, I was kind of just a bit like, what is going on? This is really weird and like out of left field. But like even then, the second film, has Antonio Banderas, and he's like really funny in that film.
Antonio Banderas as Burger Beard.
Burger Beard.
Burger Beard. Fantastic.
Yeah, and then this film kind of just has like, I'm struggling to actually remember much of the plot besides from the brief synopsis you gave, because Wikipedia.
Well, I've watched it twice now, so I can give you a pretty good.
Poor soul.
Yeah, do you want to run through it, because I don't think I'm strong enough to.
So, SpongeBob. The film starts. SpongeBob wakes up, and he has fun with Gary, I guess, and then you see he goes to work.
has fun with Gary.
He does. He has fun with Gary. No, he takes him on walks and shit. You know what I mean. Which, by the way, I don't understand how he has so much time to do that in an entire day.
You sound so
he has work.
unenthusiastic.
Anyway, SpongeBob goes to work. Has a hectic day, I suppose.
Yeah.
And then Plankton tries to steal the secret formula. Then he realizes that SpongeBob's his biggest downfall.
Yeah.
As told by his wife. By the way, Karen has arms in this for some reason.
Gross.
Wait, does Karen have arms in this?
She does, yeah.
Ugh.
They're mainly down by her side, but she does use them.
I didn't know that, but like off the top, I'm just picturing Karen as like a monitor on wheels, and
yeah,
just thinking of that
arms now.
It's gross. Oh.
And they don't look like robot arms. They look like sort of molded arms, and they don't have like joints on them with like robots doing stuff. It's weird.
I'm just picturing like hairy human arms.
Anyway, Plankton realizes that SpongeBob, my boy, is the reason that he keeps failing his plans. So he makes a new plan because he sees that King. What's it?
King Poseidon. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying not to say King Neptune.
Oh yeah,
that's who it was beforehand. Anyway, so King Poseidon runs out of snail juice, so he wants more snails. So he goes, "Oh, I know SpongeBob has a snail. I'll give his snail to King Poseidon."
I'm sorry.
And then SpongeBob realizes that Gary's been kidnapped, so he goes with a robot that was just in the movie. Snail napped. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Can I just take a minute? I'm just breaking down, realizing how stupid this fucking film is.
You know
it's
what?
like the part where you said King Poseidon runs out of snail juice.
He does. That's
I
literally
know.
a plot point.
And I just
Anyway.
realized how stupid this film is. Sorry, continue.
So SpongeBob and Patrick go together on a journey to the lost city of Atlantic City. On the way, they have a vision of a western town with pirate zombie ghosts.
And Danny Trejo's there.
Who?
Danny
Trejo's
Trejo,
there.
Machete.
Yeah.
He's there because he'll
Danny
do
Trejo's
it.
there.
He's there
Snoop
'cause he'll
Dogg's
do
there.
anything for a
Oh yeah, there's a
paycheck.
Snoop Dogg musical number.
Snoop Dogg musical number.
Yeah.
I'll talk about that in a minute. Keanu Reeves is there as well. He's called the Sage.
A wholesome Chungus, Reddit gold.
And he tells SpongeBob, "Oh, this coin will give you courage when you time of need." SpongeBob saves the ghost people from. Oh, what's his name? What's he called in the movie?
Danny Trejo.
Sorry. El Diablo.
El Diablo.
Why do I remember that?
Because he's a very bad man. I actually did like the El Diablo Very Bad Man song.
That was kind of
Also,
funny.
Snoop Dogg's credited as the gambler.
Okay.
That's his name.
Does he gamble?
But he sings a song when SpongeBob gets there.
That goes on for about
rapping and
4
fun.
minutes.
Way too long.
It goes on too long.
He runs away when El Diablo gets there. Anyway, SpongeBob kills El Diablo
Fucking SpongeBob fucking
by opening
murders.
the curtain and hitting him with light or whatever.
He fucking murdered Uncle Machete from Spy Kids, dude. I don't like that.
I don't like that either. It's not nice. Then he runs away. He wakes up, figures out that he sees that Sage is real somehow.
And it's just
And then
Keanu
they
Reeves'
get to the
face.
lost city, and Keanu Reeves goes, "Don't get distracted now."
And then what
They
happens?
get addicted to gambling.
didn't
Very
know I could,
appropriate. Very appropriate
appropriate
for
for
kids.
kids.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't know I could relate to a SpongeBob movie so much. I just get told not to be distracted, and then I'm addicted to gambling.
Yeah. Oh well.
Ugh.
They get distracted. Then the next day they go, "Oh no, we're supposed to be getting Gary." Then they get arrested for trying to steal Gary back. And then Sandy's like looking for SpongeBob for some reason.
Yeah, like the crew, like Sandy, Krabs, and Squidward, and no, it's just those three. They basically go on an adventure trying to find them.
She goes looking for him, and then there's like this whole scene where they go back to the old car from the first movie.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool how they've got that in there. Then they ruin it.
Oh god.
By turning it into a fucking long, stupid-looking sub car.
Oh, so stupid.
Apparently that's better somehow.
No. Oh.
Anyway, they get there, they do like a song and dance routine, tell everyone how they met, which is at Camp Coral for everyone apparently.
We gotta sell
Yeah,
the new
and then-
series.
They got set in the new series. Then they steal Gary back. They didn't get away, but they convinced King Poseidon that he can just be him. You don't need to be pretty.
Yeah, because he wanted
ugly.
Yeah, he wanted the snail juice to make
Stay
himself
young.
look beautiful and everything. But then he's just like this really obese, bald man thing king,
Yeah.
and then it's like, hey, be yourself. And I guess that's kind of a good message, but it just feels so out of place because it's just thrown there in the last minute. And
I
it's
do like how Matt Berry plays King Poseidon though. I do like his voice a lot.
I love Matt Berry, but it was really distracting for me because he voiced the dolphin in Sponge Out of Water.
Yeah, he did. Didn't he?
Yeah, so it was really distracting because as soon as he came on screen, I was like,
maybe
"Is this
the
the same
dolphin
character?"
was King Poseidon.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. With all the retconning, it wouldn't surprise me. It's just such a confusing film. Anyway, continue.
Yes.
We've got a little bit more of the story. Is there anything else?
I don't think so. They all live happily ever. Oh, he releases all the snails, and now SpongeBob has 2 billion snails.
Yeah.
And you get all the snails in the street with a really, really fucking awful cover of "Take on Me" by Weezer.
I love
Oh,
Weezer, but
I
fuck.
hate that cover.
It makes
And
me so sad.
They do that,
Just get
and then there's
Why don't we get the actual song?
they do that, and then they have a really kind of cute tribute to Steven Hillenburg, but it's also
I
like
thought
a-
it was
It's
cynical.
also sort of not nice, the fact that he spat on his fucking
Yeah.
franchise and then went, oh, this is a memory of Stephen Hillenburg.
Yeah, no, it's
like, here you
fucking
go.
not. It's not in any way. So
this would just piss him off. Like, what are you doing?
yeah, so we did a quick overview, but specific moments. So how many times did everybody laugh during this film? Like, genuinely laugh, not laugh at it. Because even though I do hate this film, there were a few moments that did make me chuckle. So, like,
There is, yeah.
the El Diablo song is kind of funny, where it's just like, El Diablo, very bad man. That is funny.
I do like that song, yeah. That sort of makes me feel like the series isn't completely dead.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of like a joke from the old thing.
Yeah, it's just like very goofy, corny, like old school SpongeBob humor. And then there's one moment where I think Mr. Krabs is like talking to SpongeBob, and he's like, "Hey, I have an idea how to make money," and he calls Squidward out before he's like explaining this, and he's like, "I have a new idea," and then Squidward just like walks off the frame, which I found quite funny. Like the visual humor in the film can be funny at times, but again, there's only like Mark Commode has I think he has like a test for comedies, and he says if you don't laugh more than 6 times during a comedy, it wasn't successful, and I laughed maybe 3 or 4 times. So
I'd never laughed more than that, I've got to say.
yeah, there's like a few kind of funny moments, but the moments I was really like laughing at but also really disgusted about was just how shameless the film is, really. So there's when Sandy and the gang kind of like try to save SpongeBob near the end of the film, we go into like Camp Corral flashbacks, and it's like, oh, this is how me and Sandy met, SpongeBob and Sandy met, this is how me and Patrick met, this is how me and Gary met. And no joke, it goes on for about 15 minutes. It's just 15 minutes of like people getting up on stage talking about the flashbacks, and it becomes like comically bad, almost like a parody. And I'm like, what is this? You can't be this cynical, surely. You can't think this is acceptable. And it kind of derails the already horrendous pacing in the film. Like, I don't know about you guys, but this film feels like it's about 3 hours long.
It does. It feels a lot longer than it actually is.
And you've watched it
felt
twice.
Like I was watching. I felt like I was watching Gene Delman.
Gene Dalman, for those who don't know, is a 3.5-hour film about a woman who just cleans her house.
Yeah,
Cool.
it felt like that.
Yeah.
Brady, did you laugh at any point?
No.
I guess it wasn't memorable enough.
Dude,
didn't you-
gonna say-
Oh,
you
sorry.
explaining the plot was like, it filled my brain more than the film did, and
Yeah.
mostly just because of how fucking dry your delivery was. Like,
Yeah, I was gonna say I think my explanation of the plot was funnier than the entire film.
Yeah,
it kind of
it's just-
was. And
It's just when you were talking about snail juice, I just lost it because I was like,
Snail
this film is
juice.
so stupid. It's like
I really-
SpongeBob
See-
is stupid, but still.
I
Sorry,
don't have an
Brady.
issue with that.
I really
think
wanted
they
to
could fix
interject.
the film.
Oh,
Interject.
Oh, when you were talking about the snail juice, I had a really big urge just to call it snail sauce, but I
Delicious.
thought that'd be kind of gross, so I just
It-
kept my mouth
yeah.
shut.
Anyway, the way I think they could fix this movie or made it less shit was instead of doing all these flashbacks to Camp Coral, they should have forgot about it and not done the series and done flashbacks to when the characters actually did first meet.
Yeah.
Joe, like, sort of like updated the animation. It would have been really cool to see like go from the 3D animation to the 2D animation because obviously it was 2D back then. But they sort of just update it and make it look better.
Yeah.
And then they go, hey, this is how me and Sandy met. And because in the first episode, I can't remember it, but I guarantee SpongeBob was nice to her.
Yeah.
It's just his character.
Yeah, SpongeBob's like a nasty person, so it wouldn't it wouldn't ruin anything. And again, if you really want to take the show or like the series in a new direction with this updated animation style, that's a perfect idea. It's like take the old animation, use it as flashbacks, and then showcase the new animation. It's like, hey, this is how improved it is now. And if they had an actual idea or concept for the film which wasn't fucking snail juice, maybe it would have worked, but there's no real ideas in this film. It's just kind of throwing random like storylines at the wall and seeing what sticks.
Yeah.
And that's why the pacing sucks so much, because the film is called Sponge on the Run. SpongeBob is never really on the run. If anything, he's trying to get Gary. He's not on the run from anything. Sponge on the Run makes it sound like he's committed a crime or something, or he's like evading his taxes or some shit. He's not doing that. He's trying to save his
Evading
friend.
his taxes.
Yeah. But he's not done anything bad. He just wants to protect his snail friend and whatnot. So the title doesn't make sense. And then even if the title made sense and the plot was, oh, SpongeBob's on a run and he needs to get to Atlantic City or something, or the lost city of Atlantic City, sorry. He
It'll be
gets...
really cool
Oh,
idea.
sorry, go on.
If he had to go to there to like sort of clear his name or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, like, the title would at least make sense then, but it doesn't right now. And the pacing is horrendous because of that, because SpongeBob reaches Atlantic City about 35 to 40 minutes into the film. Like, he's reached his end goal not even halfway through the film, and then they have to pad it out with flashbacks, SpongeBob and Patrick wasting a day by gambling, and just stupid shit that makes no sense just to make it feature length. This, like,
And it's kind
you
of
could
funny because
sorry.
the first 30 minutes, like before they get in the car and end up in wherever
Lost
town
City
where
of
El Diablo
Atlantic
is.
City.
Yeah.
Oh,
when
that
they end
one,
up
yeah.
there,
Desert Town.
That's like 10 minutes. And so
Oh, yeah,
the
that
first
flashback.
30 minutes is like spent fucking around doing nothing. And then it's like, oh no, Gary's gone. Gotta go get Gary. And then it's about 10 to 15 minutes of just driving.
By the way,
and Keanu Reeves.
they missed an opportunity to use the Gary Please Come Home song.
They
Or Gary
They
Come Home.
did. Yeah.
You know what? If they would have played that, I would have shut the movie off.
Yeah. See, I was going to say, there's two things I want to speak about. One of them being callbacks to old episodes by things being laid around, like the robot claw to the Mr. Krabs robot from one of the episodes
Yeah.
was on the floor outside the chum bucket. And I'm sure there's other ones, but I can't remember.
There might have been.
Oh,
Yeah.
Squidward paints a picture of his snail, but he puts his head on the snail, and it's the way that he was made in that one another episode where SpongeBob. It's like a Halloween episode where SpongeBob, Patrick, and I think SpongeBob and Squidward at least get turned into snails.
And it's really disturbing.
It is really disturbing.
Yeah.
I actually have a weird connection to that. My mum bought a Halloween DVD, just a SpongeBob one of like Halloween episodes. There's one where he wants to look like a ghost, but he's too square, so Patrick sort of shaves off his sponge, and it goes all the way down to his brain, which is really weird. And then there's that one, and I think there's one with a Flying Dutchman in as well.
Yeah.
Or it might. whatever. But that one's like fucking terrifying me since I was a kid.
I can imagine SpongeBob is a really creepy show, and
Sometimes,
yeah,
yeah.
and in terms of like references, the only one I can remember is one you've previously mentioned, which is the throwback to the old like the car from the first film, like the Pattymobile, but now it's like a submobile.
I don't know if that's what it's called, but that's what I'm calling it.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's the Pattymobile. Trust me, I know these things.
Yeah, but this film just fucking sucks, for lack of a better like term.
The other thing is it really sloppily foreshadows a lot. Like, it does it at the beginning where SpongeBob gets snail juice on his face.
Yeah.
And he's like, ooh, it's gross, but also oddly soothing, or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I wonder why he said that.
And there's even... oh, sorry.
And Squidward's always holding a magazine with Kelpie G on the front of it. Who the fuck is Kelpie G?
The foreshadowing, the writing is not very subtle in this film. I think the worst part of the writing of this film is the whole... It's kind of trying to be like ironic when Patrick and SpongeBob and Patrick are in like the car when they're trying to find Gary, and they're essentially going on about how if this was a buddy cop movie, they'd like have an argument later in the film, but that will never happen. And it's trying to like poke fun at the fact that buddy cop films or like buddy road trip movies always have that second act like breakup thing, and you think, oh, okay, so it's trying to like subvert people's expectations, and it's not actually going to do that because this film, it's a bit more meta and it's a bit more smart, but then it literally does that later in the film, but completely seriously. It's not like with a hint of irony, and it's so inconsequential in the long run. It's not like there's a big fallout. So like in every buddy cop film or like romantic comedy, you'll always have a moment in the second act where it's like, oh, we're breaking up, and then the characters will be like left alone for a while. In this film, they both get arrested, I think, when they're like gambling or something. They get thrown in jail. They argue in jail for, I want to say, maybe 35 seconds, and then they make up. There is no reason for it.
No makeup arc. They just make up.
Yeah.
In the next scene, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, and the only reason they even include that kind of storyline is because they know that's how traditional story writing works. So they don't even try to be a bit experimental or try to impress you as an audience. They just treat you like you're fucking dumb. And hey, this is how every film is supposed to be in the second act into the lead up to the third act. So I guess we have to do this now, even though we made fun and ridiculed films that do that before. And I just don't understand it. I really don't understand it. And one more thing I want to mention real quick. Did anybody else find the voice acting very bizarre? Like, some of the characters just didn't sound like themselves, even though it was the same actors and actresses?
Yeah, at some point.
I think Sandy sounded really weird. Like, very odd. Like, Sandy did not sound like Sandy whatsoever. Yeah. And SpongeBob's kind of a dick in this film. Like, he's kind of a prick for no reason. Like,
that's been quite a theme in recent SpongeBob episodes, at least with SpongeBob and Patrick, where they're just incredibly mean to either each other or Squidward.
Yeah,
for literally no reason.
It's just really mean, and like SpongeBob was never really a mean character. Like, going back to the moment when they're ridiculing like buddy cop films, I think they're talking about a buddy cop film, and then he's like, "Oh no, I would be the mean star. I would be the main star, and Patrick, you would just be like a side character or something." And I'm like, what a prick! Like, what kind of knob says something like that? Like, SpongeBob isn't like that. It's just a really mean thing to say, and I just don't understand it. I think SpongeBob as a character, well, he's mostly recognizable here, and Tom Kenny's still doing the voice here, isn't he? Yeah. Although it's like the same actor and everything, it still feels like kind of a different character, because even with the weird dream sequence with El Diablo, where he kills El Diablo, I'm like, what is going on? I know it's a dream sequence, but it's just, it's not really a true representation of the character.
Well. Like, he opens the curtain, and I thought they realised it was hurting him, so they kept doing it, and then he turns around and he's shocked that he's dead, and I'm like, you didn't mean to do that then? Like, why did you do that then?
Yeah, I think the characters in this film suck. Like, it's a betrayal of the original characters, and again, I know we're just kind of talking about how bad this film is, but it really is that bad. I don't think there's many redeemable elements or factors about this film. I mean, it's functional. I mean, the animation is it's not like Food Fight. It's not that bad or anything. It's like it's watchable, but every filmmaking aspect just kind of sucks. I think, like, as I've went on about it, the pacing sucks, the writing sucks. I don't like the animation, but I can understand if people do. The voice acting could do with a bit of work. It's failing at almost everything, and it's really fascinating. Really, I think it's a fascinating film, even though I absolutely despise it. I find it fascinating that Paramount/Nickelodeon actually thought, yeah, this is acceptable to throw out.
Yeah.
It's really weird. Anyway, I've been talking for a while. Someone else interject.
I feel sorry for the kid voice actors. Because this.
Oh, for the
trying to
Camp
be
Corral.
SpongeBob's
Yeah.
pretty difficult. And every single time they did like the SpongeBob laugh, but as a kid, it made me cringe.
Yeah, it didn't sound right whatsoever.
Because it's supposed to be sort of quick and like a sort of thing, not a because it sort of like yaps on you then.
Yeah.
Like a small barking dog.
There's just something about Mason out of nowhere doing the fucking SpongeBob laugh.
It wasn't perfect, but I tried.
It was
like,
better.
I wasn't expecting you to actually do it, so I just was like, holy fuck, what's going on? But yeah, in terms of, like, I agree with everything you boys are saying. Like, this... I'm not mad. Like, I'm not mad about it or anything. I'm just like, hey, just kind of sucks.
Yeah.
I'm not mad. I'm more upset that this keeps happening with stuff like this.
Yeah.
I can't even say I'm upset. Like, I'm just... I'm almost indifferent to it at this point because, as I said earlier, like, SpongeBob's just a cash cow now. I have my show. I have my movie. You know, like, I have the first 3 seasons. I have that first movie and maybe Sponge Out of Water, but I wasn't really expecting much. But it's just a movie that after this podcast is over, I'm likely never going to think about it again.
Yeah, I think that's possibly the best way to look at it. As people can probably tell, I'm a little mad by it. I just think it's like really disrespectful and just like, just making a 90-minute film just to promote a TV show nobody wants is just kind of. It's just really morally fucked, in my opinion, and I really wish Paramount would just treat the character with a little more care and consideration, especially considering, as we spoke about, Steven Hillenburg never wanted it to really carry on past season 3, that if you're going to continue it on, at least try to maintain the same level of quality and creativity that the show was known for in the first place, because... Yeah. I can't say I've watched much of, like, new era SpongeBob, so I can't really comment on that, but based on the 2 films and just the lack of appreciation or care for the character, even within, like, how, like, weird the release was, it's just like they threw this film out with little to no marketing. Like, I didn't see a single trailer for this film whatsoever. I was actually scrolling on Netflix about a month ago, and it was like, oh hey, next week Sponge Out of Water comes to Netflix, or like the week after, and I was like, really? I was like, I didn't know about this before. It was just kind of thrown there out of nowhere, and like, you can tell when a studio or like a corporation just throws something out, they don't care about it. Like, who remembers Artemis Fowl, the Disney film from this year?
I've never seen it.
It's horrendous. It's awful.
I didn't watch it either.
No, it's really bad. But that was like one of the first.
Because like everybody told me it was shit, including you.
Yeah, I saw a screenshot of like someone morphing the mouth.
Oh
no!
So
I was like, nah, that's not for me.
It's so bad. But yeah, it's when.
But I was gonna say the characters, for some reason, I know we already know the characters aren't really like exactly the correct, but for some reason everyone just realizes after SpongeBob's gone that there's some reason they can't live without SpongeBob.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Mr. Krabs' character would just hire someone else.
Yeah,
like,
Mr. Krabs is not a very
likes
caring.
Money more than he likes anyone else, so he hires someone else so he makes more money.
Yeah, it's like I just. Yeah, I'm just struggling to really come up with much to say about this film that's positive. Really, it's like,
yeah,
you could show it to a 5-year-old.
I think even a 5-year-old would be bored. I mean, I watched it with my 15-year-old sister. Well, she was 14 at the time, and she asked
scary
me.
if you stop that sentence at my 15-year-old.
I was
My
like,
15-year-old.
You got a secret you're not telling us? Like,
No, my sister. I was watching it with my sister, and we she asked me like, how far are we through it, and she was like, oh, because I'm getting really bored, and it's at the moment where they arrive in the city of Atlantic City, and we were only like 40 minutes into the film, and I was like, what? We weren't even halfway through, and that's just when it sunk in that I was like, this isn't going to get better. It's just going to get worse.
See, I know some parents have been complaining that it's confusing as well for young kids.
Oh yeah,
because well, obviously you don't know if they've fallen asleep, but they're in a car and in their desert. Well, they wake up in the desert, sorry, and to a kid that's like, what the hell's going on? And they may hear dream sequence or this is a dream. They'll still be like, what's going on? I don't understand, because it's just like it just happened. There was no in between.
Yeah. It's so weird. Like, the way the film is structured is so bizarre, because I understood for the most part it was a dream sequence, but even then it's so weird because Sage is still real, even though Sage is a dream character, but then Sage is just like a real reoccurring character. And we didn't really touch on it much, but Keanu is trying his best. I want to stress that he's not the best actor. We all know he's not the best actor. He's trying his best. He's not phoning it in. And he's having fun with the role, which I can appreciate. But it's just... it gets very, like, tiresome very quickly. It's like, it's funny at first. Oh, he's playing a tumbleweed. He's playing a sage. And then it just gets really boring fast, because...
I do like how he calls them losers. And I was like, yep.
Yes. Yeah, it's just... there's nothing that really... works in the film.
I was pretty much checked out by the time Keanu Reeves showed up. I was like,
yeah,
oh my fucking god. And
yeah.
like, what is it? He talks about like FaceTime.
Yeah, he's like talking about FaceTime at one moment. I'm like, oh.
Anyway, we should give it a rating and then
2 out of
move on
10.
to something else.
That 2 out of 10. Again, it's not the most offensive thing I've seen, just because I laughed like 2 or 3 times. Yeah, that's it. I was just trying to...
give it a 3 out of 10, I think.
Yeah. Brady?
I'd give it a 3. I don't fucking care.
Yeah.
This movie sucks.
It's just garbage.
The thing is, like, as I said, I'm not mad about it. I was just like checking my watch, and after a while, I just left the movie on and I did my thing. I was like, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go make a sandwich. And so
I was playing first time. I was really tired watching it, so I shut it off halfway through and then watched the rest. And then the second time I was playing Minecraft while watching it, not 100% paying attention, because I was watching it with my friend who wanted to see it.
Yeah,
just sort of like judge it, I guess.
Yeah, it's just so.
It's a nothing movie.
Yeah, that's the
You put it on for your like 5-year-old. You'll make them shut up for an hour and a half. Like,
yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, so don't watch. Actually, watch Sponge Out of Water. Sponge on the Run. Sorry, and form your own opinion, of course. But I wouldn't recommend this film, and I don't think anybody else would on the podcast.
I was gonna say, like, are you encouraging people to watch this? Like, after
no,
after shit talking it for like a good.
This is a bad movie. Please watch it.
Like, I mean, shit talking for a good like half an hour plus.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Some people might enjoy it. I mean, it's not like, I think it's got like a 6 on IMDb and about like a 5.8 or something on Letterboxd. So I mean, people are not like hating it, but I just find it terrible. I just think it's awful. But yeah, Sponge on the Run. What a way to end 2020, or like in the last like few months of 2020. It's like, thanks. It's like you delay the new Edgar Wright movie, but you give a Sponge on the Run.
Are we here just to suffer?
Yeah. It's like COVID isn't bad enough, so they had to give us this, didn't they?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Can I just say, I don't like how money hungry companies are, and I know it's not going to change. I know me saying that's not going to cause like a revolution, but someone's making a movie about David Bowie.
Oh, Stardust.
David Bowie himself said he didn't want a movie about him. His family said they don't want a movie about him, but they're gonna go ahead and do it anyway.
Yeah, it's really weird because in the 90s there was a film called Velvet Goldmine. I think I'm just gonna double check now, and I watched it recently. Velvet Goldmine. Yeah, Velvet Goldmine is awesome. So it's essentially it's a fictional film starring who is it? It's
Ewan McGregor, isn't it?
Ewan McGregor and Jonathan Rhys-Meyers, and Jonathan Rhys-Meyers plays a character called, where is he? Brian Slade. And Brian Slade is essentially David Bowie. Like, it's essentially Bowie's story. And then Ewan McGregor, Kurt Wilde, he's Mick Jagger, and then you've also got Christian Bale as like a reporter in it. It's a really, really good film, which kind of like tells like a fictionalized sequence of events based around Bowie's life and like Mick Jagger's life. And Bowie hated that film. So as you were saying before, he never really wanted a film based on his life, and that's probably
he's already told his story.
Yeah.
Like, if you listen to like his music and you look at his like interviews, you've read it. Read books about him, or you read anything about him, you see anything about him, he's already told his story.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be shown up on a big screen. It's not like Bohemian Rhapsody or anything. Like, you just look at that man's life.
Even that film, they didn't want to. Like, I don't think his family wanted that film to be made either.
Probably not. Queen are just money hungry pricks now. Sorry, I don't like Queen.
Yeah.
Current era Queen as a band are awesome, but just like Brian May and all those like just knobheads. Anyway, completely unrelated, but yeah, Velvet Goldmine is quite good, but Bowie never liked that film, and then he passed like 5 years ago now. It must have been. I think it was 2015.
It's going on 5.
It's absolutely.
I think it was late 2015.
It's so sad. It's really sad
because Black Star came out in 20. Oh no, he was still alive when Black Star came out.
He was alive for like a week.
He died 2 days after Black Star came out. So it was like
2016.
It was like second week of 2016.
Yeah, it was super depressing, but as you were saying, he told his story there. Black Star is an album of him basically coming to terms with the acceptance of the fact he's dying, which is horrible. But again,
I may not have cried listening to the first time listening to the album.
It's horrible. It's like a really, really sad album. And I think the weirdest thing is, when people reviewed that album initially, they were like, oh yeah, this is a return to form for Bowie, because he'd been gone for a long time at that point, I think, or not been making the music that people wanted.
It's because he's been with his family and spending time with his family.
Yeah, so it was a shock, and it was like, yeah, this is a really good album. And then you listen to it the first few times, and you're like, yeah, this is really, really good, beautiful album. And then he passes, and then you realize the real meaning behind the album, and it kind of completely morphs your view in a different way and makes you appreciate the album more, which is again why we don't need a Bowie film. And then
can't even use the music for Bowie.
No, because Bowie's son, who is the director, Duncan Jones, the director of Moon, Warcraft, and Source Code. That fun fact for everyone. I still find it really weird how Duncan Jones is David Bowie's son, but he's just like flat out refused to license the music. Same for the rest of Bowie's like estate and family. So
thank God for that.
Yeah, this film just looks really bizarre because it had a premiere at a film festival, and I've heard it's not the worst thing ever, but it's not really a good David Bowie film. If you're looking at it as a David Bowie biopic, it's kind of terrible. But if you're looking at it as a film, I've heard it's quite good. But I still think, kind of like with the Hillenburg and Sponge on the Run thing, it's just very disrespectful to go ahead with a project like that when the man himself never wanted this to happen, the family never wanted this to happen, and it is literally the definition of a cash grab. Unless, of course, it is somehow surprising, because a lot of films nowadays will get like review bombed. Like, because it had a premiere at a festival, you can technically log it on Letterboxd and IMDb, so the film's already getting flooded with like 1 out of 10 reviews, and I think that's kind of a little unfair, just for the fact that a lot of those people won't have seen the film. Wait until the film's out, see how it is, and if it's trash, go and give it a 1 out of 10 then. But I'll probably give it a viewing just to see, it's like, is it any good as a film? I'll try and be as objective as possible, not really associating the whole thing that it's a cash grab and it was never wanted. And maybe it might be a good film, but I just think it's really, it's just sus. It's kind of really sus and shady, and
Yeah.
ugh.
In my opinion, if it's a good movie, it doesn't have to be about David Bowie.
Yeah.
At that point,
Yeah.
like it just doesn't work, does it? If you want to see a really good David Bowie movie, watch Labyrinth.
Labyrinth is good. Also, watch
yeah.
The Man Who Fell to Earth is great.
Yeah.
He's good in the Nolan film. What is it? The Prestige.
Yeah.
He's good in that. David Bowie was a really good actor, and it just makes me like a lot of people don't really realize how many films he was in. Like he was in Twin Peaks. He was in Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me.
He's in Last Temptation of Christ.
Yeah, which I need to watch. He's in The Hunger, which is a very good film about like vampires. Yeah, he had like a really solid filmography. He was even in SpongeBob, like linking it back.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah, he was in the Atlantis episode, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Atlantis SquarePantis.
That's the one. Like yeah, it's like it's weird how everything's linking. It's like we link Garfield to SpongeBob, Bowie to SpongeBob.
I do have one thing that I could link.
Go on.
It's funny because you're only 3 episodes into your podcast, and you've already talked about 2 separate Nickelodeon movies. Rango
We have
and SpongeBob.
Rango. Yes,
That's true.
And then Megamind is
DreamWorks.
Which is Paramount, I believe, at the time, wasn't it?
Yeah, at the time it was Paramount.
Yeah, so 3 episodes in a row where we've spoken about Paramount films. Incredible.
Good God.
Yeah, so yeah, Bowie film. It probably won't be good. I will give it a watch. Hopefully it's okay.
Yeah. It's not going to be out for a while,
I think
I assume.
it literally goes to VOD in like a week, I think.
I was gonna
does it?
say,
Yeah.
why don't they just squirt it out on VOD? But
Yeah, I'm gonna have a look now. So it comes out in January in the UK, but
Right.
in America, where is it? I saw something about it the other day. Oh, maybe not. Maybe I was wrong. Oh, yeah, maybe I was wrong. I was saying it had a kind of okay reviews. It's got a 36% on Rotten Tomatoes. Yikes.
Right, okay.
But yeah, I'll have a quick look for the release date. But yeah,
Yeah. Okay. So, cinemas.
cinemas. Yes,
We love them.
We love
Oh,
them.
do
They're in trouble.
you know what
They're
though? When you say we love the cinema, I love the idea of the movie theater, and I love going to a nice one with a respectable audience. But unfortunately, in my area, the only theater is in a shopping mall, so it's a fucking dump. And
Right, okay.
there's like
Yeah.
that aspect of the cinema going experience that I'm kind of glad I don't deal with anymore. But at
Yeah.
the same time, there's certain movies that I would love to see in a theater. You know,
Yeah, but overall, cinemas
Yeah,
great.
cinemas are great, and the reason we're bringing this up was because there was some news a few days ago. Well, kind of. There was news a few days ago, but also news about a month ago, and this kind of they both will interject and like link together. So Disney obviously haven't had a great year with like COVID and like not being able to theatrically release many movies. So they were going to release. So they released Onward, which was a Pixar film that was out for what I want to say like 3 weeks before COVID hit, and then went straight.
if even 3
Yeah.
weeks. It was
Yeah,
Which is unfortunate because it did look like an interesting movie.
it's all right. I saw it at the cinema and I enjoyed it, but it went straight to like VOD, like premium VOD, where you pay like $20 or like £15.
Yeah,
and
then,
then
like, a month
in
later, it
America-
went to Disney Plus.
Yeah, it was just like on Disney Plus, so people could just watch it from home. And they also did the same thing for Frozen 2, because Frozen 2 wasn't supposed to be on there for a while, and then they just pushed it on because they weren't making money. So they had those,
They're
and
doing
then
the same thing with Soul.
yeah, that's what I was going to
December.
get into. Yeah,
Which is a shame also.
yeah, because Soul was originally going to be a theatrical release film like around a month or two ago. It was like October, November
I mean,
time.
how many times me and Leon went to the cinema
Oh God, yes.
in our hometown when they sort of like reopened again, because it was like on the guidelines and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They were showing old movies, but they kept showing the trailer for Soul.
Oh yeah, we saw the trailer for Soul like countless times, and it was like November time. But then they announced about a month ago that, oh yeah, it's gonna just hit Disney Plus on Christmas Day, free of charge, because I know they tested the waters with Mulan, and that didn't... Apparently they say it's a success, but I don't think it did that well. The film's kind of trash anyway, but not just that, but it just didn't do very well commercially, because it's just like, who wants to pay £20 or like £30 to see a film which will hit Disney Plus 3 months later? It's like, there's no point. But yeah.
And I think the general consensus on the live action remakes of stuff they've been doing is not great.
No, it's not.
It's
very
crazy.
good.
So no one wants to pay for it.
It's crazy that people are like, oh, I don't give a shit about Mulan, but The Lion King 2019 is the highest grossing animated movie of all time.
I hate that.
It makes me so sad.
I hate that movie.
I can't wait for the YMS review.
I haven't watched it, but I hate the fact that it is the highest grossing animated movie ever. That makes me want to be sick.
It's gross.
And it's not even me just being like, Disney bad, Disney bad. It's the fact that like there's so much that there are animated films that are so much better. And there's lots of animated films that didn't do especially well at the box office. Like you look at something like a lot of what Leica does, or you look at Aardman, like smaller studios. I know there's stop motion versus the Disney brand, but there's animated films that don't do especially hot, but a fucking remake of The Lion King that looks like National Geographic goes crazy.
What annoyed me about that remake is they say it's an animated movie, but it's just CGI. The entire thing is just CGI. Yeah,
they were hyping it up as like a cross between animated and live action when there's one live action shot in the film, and people say, oh, the live action Lion King. It's not a live action film, and it really annoys me because the animation is impressive, but if you watch the film, which I unfortunately have, you notice very quickly this is not real. Like, none of this stuff is real. The locations are not real. The animals are not real. And it's just a really bizarre thing that Disney have kind of convinced people that it's live action in a way. It's so strange. It's so bizarre. Because when I think of The Lion King and I talk, it's like, oh, which do you mean, the live action or the remake? I'm like, the live action or the animated, and they're both animated films. It's really weird. And speaking about animated films that didn't do too well, just because I want to throw some support out, go watch Anomalisa by Charlie Kaufman. That film's really good.
Oh, you know me well. Mentioning Charlie Kaufman on the one episode I appear on.
But yeah, so after the news that Soul was hitting Disney Plus, because obviously they were like, cinemas are not going to be open, Warner were like, oh hey, we're releasing Wonder Woman in cinemas sometime in December, and that was like a rumor, but people were like, that's not going to happen, is it? And then the news broke 2 days ago that Wonder Woman is hitting HBO Max in America and also cinemas everywhere else in the world, or places that don't have HBO Max. Day. Yeah, so it's really weird because Brady was kind of like telling me about how they're releasing this, and tell me if I've got this wrong, but the plan essentially is we'll release it digitally for free on HBO Max on Christmas Day. We'll also release it in cinemas on Christmas Day, but on January 25th, they're removing it from HBO Max so it can do well in cinemas, which makes no sense because there will be a perfectly fine HD copy floating about on the internet. And then as soon as it's left theaters, it will go straight back onto HBO Max. Have I got it right?
Pretty much. And the thing about this that kind of pisses me off, you and me rambled about this yesterday.
Yeah.
But the thing about it that really, really grinds my gears is that when it comes to like HBO Max content, obviously none of us are in the United States. No. So when things get released onto these services from HBO Max, like an example I can think of would be Close Enough, the show from the regular show creator that's an HBO Max show. That in Canada is a Netflix show. But then you get things like...
It is here as well.
And then you get things like An American Pickle, which... I don't know where that is in the UK, but An American Pickle is released on Crave in Canada, which is our equivalent to an HBO service. So it's not the same worldwide. And this is making me wonder. And it's making me wonder because like with Warner releasing these big projects, like you get Zack Snyder's Justice League coming out on HBO Max and Wonder Woman, how the fuck are international audiences going to get to see that?
It's really weird
when they're
because
not in the United States.
Yeah, an American Pickle had a theatrical release over here, a very limited release, but it's
I've never even heard of that.
it's like a Seth Rogen comedy, which wasn't very good. But yeah, that was like one of the first big HBO Max films, and it came out the same day on HBO Max that it did in cinemas over here. But it was only in cinemas for like 2 weeks, and then was pulled because COVID, and it just wasn't doing well. But I think it's getting like a DVD release over here, so it does make me wonder. When Zack Snyder's Justice League comes out, that's going to be like a 4-hour miniseries. What are you doing with that film? Are you going to sell it to Netflix? Are you going to release it in cinemas as a 4-hour long film? Are you going to put it up on premium like VOD or something? I don't understand because we don't have
I'm
HBO.
still not interested in that.
Oh no, it's going to be garbage. It's going to be garbage. But I'm curious as to how are they going to release it? Because HBO Max is only available in America, and it's not making its way over here anytime soon. As Brady said, Crave is in Canada, so there's no need for HBO Max there. And over here, Now TV have the exclusive rights for all of the HBO shows, so it would probably... I don't think they'd release it on Now TV because it's not a huge service. Like, it's nowhere near as popular as something like Netflix or Amazon, so it would just be a loss, really, because no one would subscribe to Now TV to watch fucking Justice League.
If the viewers don't know already, I'm really into animation.
Yeah.
So I love Adventure Time because it was like my favorite show growing up, and it really helped me through some, like, I don't know, some troubling times, I suppose.
Yeah.
There's like a new series. I think it's only gonna have 4 episodes that are like 45 minutes long each. 2 of them are out already and on HBO Max, and I can't watch them.
That sucks.
Because where am I supposed to watch them?
It's funny that you mentioned that because I was going through cable TV because we have a channel here where we can record movies commercial free and uncut, and that's how I get my hands on a lot of movies is through this cable channel. And I noticed, what is it, Adventure Time to Distant Worlds or something like
Distant
that?
Lands.
Yeah, Distant Lands. That's airing on cable here. It's not like it's airing on TV. But in the States, it's on HBO Max. And this is the thing about HBO Max that bugs me. When it comes to Warner dumping like hundreds upon hundreds of millions of dollars into this service, how the fuck are they realistically going to distribute their content worldwide and make a profit when HBO Max is exclusive to one country?
Yeah.
Because
it's so stupid.
Because there's so many HBO, like international HBO channels. Like, I don't know where you guys get your HBO content, but here, as Leon mentioned, it's on Crave. So
yeah, it's wherever we can get it in England.
Yeah,
like
Now TV.
It's on Sky TV.
Yeah, like Sky and Now TV are kind of the same thing. Like Sky owns Now TV; it's like their streaming service. But
it's like if you have Sky and like you have the movie package and stuff, you already have Now TV. But if you don't have Sky, you can get Now TV and still have like all the movies and stuff like that.
Yeah, but it's like super expensive. You pay £11 a month for just the movies, and it only streams at 720p.
Which is dumb.
And you know what?
Ridiculous.
It's kind of the same way with Crave here because there's like 3 tiers of Crave where it's like $11.99 for Crave, so you get old HBO and whatever other content they have. Then $16.99 and you get Crave and HBO, and then you spend $20 and you get Crave, HBO, and their new release movies. Like it's fucking strange.
Yeah, it's really weird. But yeah. HBO Max and like the death of cinemas essentially. So as Wonder Woman is kind of being released through HBO Max in America and then theatrically everywhere else, I'm just wondering, does this like signify the end of cinemas? Because realistically, cinemas have not been doing well. Like Cineworld / is it Regal in America that closed recently? Or
I don't think Regal closed. I'm not sure if they closed. I'm not in America, so I don't really know.
I think Regal is in like financial trouble.
Yeah, like I know that they shut down all of their cinemas temporarily. Apparently, it was as soon as the new James Bond film got delayed again. So they've shut down. Odeon were doing like more limited screenings. So before you could just go any day, but after a while, before the new lockdown in the UK, you could only see films at Odeon during the weekend, so Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and they weren't open during the week. So I'm just worried. I'm like, is this like showing the end of cinemas? Because from what I've heard, there's rumors that all of the upcoming Disney live action remakes, so like they're doing a Cruella film, the 101 Dalmatians film with Emma Stone, and that's apparently now going to Disney Plus, even though it was going to be a theatrical release. And there's other films they're working on that I can't remember. So apparently it's all just gonna go to Disney Plus, which means what's really going to be out at the cinemas? Cinemas will never completely die. Indie cinemas and like stuff like that will always find their audience, like small family owned cinemas and whatnot. But in terms of traditional films, when the two biggest companies in the world, two of the big five, or big four now even, because
big five
Disney...
now, because it was
it's
six.
big five, sorry. Yeah, it was the big six, now it's the big five. But two of the big five, or three even, are going almost exclusively with streaming, because you've got Paramount selling their films to Netflix, like SpongeBob, Cloverfield, and whatnot. You have Disney putting loads of stuff on Disney Plus instead of opting for a theatrical release, and then you have Warner.
HBO Max.
Yeah, Warner has HBO Max, and although they do release stuff internationally still theatrically, how long is that really going to last? And it's definitely going to have an effect, because like if Wonder Woman wasn't going digital the day of release and we weren't in COVID times, that film would easily top 1 billion, because the first film topped over 1 billion and people love their superhero stuff. But if it's releasing day and day online, what is going to theoretically stop people from pirating that film if they don't live in America? Like, if they have HBO Max, sure, it's like, oh yeah, I'll just watch it on HBO Max. But people in the UK, people in Canada, people around the world, if they're like, oh, I can either risk my health and catch COVID when things are just getting much, much worse, or I can watch it for home free illegally. And a lot of people, I feel, would go for that option, which just goes... It makes me wonder.
It's not even difficult to do it illegally.
No, that's the thing. It's like, there's so many sites out there that you can just like watch films on for free without even downloading or pirating. It's so commonplace now, piracy, that it's like, is it really going to make a profit? Will putting it on HBO Max actually benefit Warner in any way?
That's what I was going to say. Like, how are they going to make like these... like how much, like $60 million movies?
Oh, Wonder Woman's like 200 million or something.
Literally, it's impossible to do that on streaming.
Well, like Wonder Woman alone is said to cost a minimum of $200 million.
Yeah, it's 200 million, and that's not even taking into account the marketing.
Like how viable is it?
At all.
Like with Disney has fuck you money. They can afford that. But when you're looking at a studio like, I don't know, Paramount, like we said, that's like having issues financially. Like, let's say they keep throwing their stuff to CBS All Access because they don't want to hold on to these movies for years. They don't want to shelve their films. Yeah. And they want to make some kind of profit, so they put them on these services. How much more viable is that than like releasing it in the theater? Because with Wonder Woman, what I think would be a good idea is just put it in theaters and leave it in for a period of time, because we got nothing new coming out other than like smaller films.
Yeah.
Or reruns of older films. Like, it just, I don't know. I don't quite understand how a company can make back $200 million from a streaming service.
No, because like obviously Tenet came out, and Tenet was kind of the big test. It was like, if this film does well, maybe everything will be okay. And when it first came out initially, because they did a staggered release, it came out across Europe and everywhere apart from America early, like sometime in August. I think it was literally the day before my birthday it came out, August 26th, and then it came out like 2 weeks later in America, and it did pretty well those opening 2 weeks. Like, it made, I think it was like about 100 million or something in the first 2 weeks, and then it came to America and kind of just bombed. Like, it only made 50 million after being out in America for 2 months. It didn't do well in America, but around the world it did somewhat okay. So I'm wondering if Warner are like, okay, so Tenet did alright, so Wonder Woman might do the same, and if we can make back, like, even if we can just internationally make back like 150 million, and then we'll also get money from like HBO Max subscribers or something, maybe they're thinking that. But I don't understand. It's really weird, because it will be playing in American theaters at the same time, and who's realistically going to want to go to a cinema in the current pandemic?
Like, keep in mind, even like my province, we only have like 50 cases, and there's like three in my city out of all of those. And even then, just because of the new normal, as the government calls it, I'm not comfortable. I'm not comfortable whatsoever sitting in a movie theater. And
Yeah.
I've been to a theater once since February, and
Right.
it was insanely uncomfortable. And it was just me, two of my friends, and one other person. And there's just
Uh,
something about it that there's a lot, and I bet you I'm not the only one. That's the point that I'm getting at. There's no way that
yeah.
I'm the only person that feels that way, and there's a lot of people that I know just wouldn't even consider it.
Yeah. Like
They
oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say, they there's a lot of people that just don't want to put somebody at risk that easily. Like
Yeah.
they don't
Yeah.
want to. I don't know. Let's say they got kids or something like that. They don't want to get their kids sick because their kids are going to school. What sense would that
Yeah.
make?
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
and
It
for
just
what? Like seeing a movie? People watch movies at home all the time.
Yeah, I went to the cinema a few times since it reopened, and I felt safe in the cinemas I went to because luckily, like Odeon were doing pretty well in terms of social distancing, and I wasn't too worried for my health, and thankfully I've not contracted anything. So they did a good job there, obviously, but I can understand why it's such a terrifying risk. But the big thing for me was how empty cinemas are even when they're packed, because
Yeah.
I saw Tenet on opening day in IMAX. I think it was like a 7 p.m. showing, so like the ideal time. Everyone's got off work, they're going to see it, and it was a sold out screening. It was their IMAX screen, so it was like a huge screen, and because of the social distancing, I'd say in a room that could have fit about 300 people,
There was
there were
probably like
maybe
70 at most.
70. I wouldn't even say that. It felt more like 65 because the way they work, the way it works is they don't let you book seats anywhere to the left or right of people. So one person takes up 3 seats essentially.
Yeah, that's
So
how it is
it's
here too. Like it's
yeah,
something like 2 or 3 seats, and the
yeah.
people
So
behind you are spaced out differently. I think it's like most are doing 30% capacity.
yeah, it might have been around 30 over here as well, maybe 30 or so. So it just felt so empty even though it was a sold out screening. And that's just when I was like, yeah, this is not profitable. Like I tried my best to support films, and I was like, yeah, I want to continue to keep cinemas alive. So I went a few times, and thankfully I felt safe. But I can completely understand and sympathize with people who are just like, yeah, I don't want to risk it to go see Wonder Woman fight a bloody I can't even remember who the villain is, but you know what I mean. They don't want to risk it to see Wonder Woman get into her latest adventure, or as shown by the box office results, a new Christopher Nolan epic. Because
And
yeah,
think
it's
like Chris Nolan's a pretty bankable guy. Like,
oh god, yeah, like all
and
of his
the
films
the
gross
fact
like
that like,
almost a billion.
and the thing I think that studios are like really out of touch when they're like, oh well, we'll just release this. Like Tenet. Tenet is gonna be my big example, or even like New Mutants, something like that, where it's like you're
Yeah,
releasing these expensive movies, and Tenet clearly did okay. Like it didn't make a profit, but it still
no,
made over $300 million.
which
But
is good, yes.
but at the same time, you have all these indie movies that you're releasing, and people aren't going to be drawn to see those. People
Oh
only
no,
like people likely only went to the theater to see Tenet because it was Tenet, you know.
yeah, they were
And
like
I,
new
I think
Christopher
it's out
Nolan
of touch
film.
for a studio to be releasing these when worldwide things are getting worse.
Oh yeah,
Like everywhere I can think of, really. Like the U.S. is getting worse, Canada's getting worse, UK is getting worse. I know that I know India's getting hit really bad. Like those are pretty big film markets,
oh yeah.
and it's insane. It's insanely out of touch for a studio to be like, "Hey, this is a good idea." And I think, frankly, with Tenet, it was a really big missed opportunity for putting it on HBO Max because it's a new service. It's a new service.
Yeah,
Put a big movie on there, draw loads of subscribers. That's not a bad idea. But the thing is, um, they put it in theaters and they lost money. And frankly, I don't feel bad for them because I think that that's just it was a fucking stupid move on their part.
yeah.
It was a stupid step for sure, honestly.
Yeah.
Like,
They did it too
come on.
soon. That's what we
I
should say. They did it far
Yeah.
too soon.
My question to you though is, if they just put it exclusively on HBO Max, would they have really made much more money? Now, I'm not saying like I'm not defending Warner, but it's a really tricky situation because as like we're kind of like on opposite sides in some way, but at the same time, it's like we've been criticizing them for kind of doing this like dual release of like having it out in cinemas and or theaters and HBO Max, but if it hit HBO Max wouldn't it have been more like catastrophic because of how expensive that film, like the budget for that film and marketing for that film
Well,
was?
when you look at the cost
how
of it,
things get put on a streaming thing, so isn't it like they buy the rights for a certain amount of time anyway?
Yeah, but HBO
so
own it because it's a Warner film anyway, so it's
Right,
like their own
okay,
film.
yeah.
But
So it just goes on without being paid. So yeah, they would lose a lot of money for that.
Yeah,
but at the
just
same
because
time,
they've
like new subscribers
focused on
was kind of
marketing.
my thought process. Is
Yeah.
draw new subscribers.
Yeah.
Like, how do you think a company like Netflix affords to make a $200 million movie like The Irishman and get away with it? Of course, Netflix is far more successful and they have more of a consistent revenue stream than something like HBO Max.
Yeah.
But like, you're making a new service and you want to advertise it and you want, like, clearly they want to dump their movies on it because of what's going on, and
Yeah.
that makes perfect sense. And you think that putting Tenet on there, even if it was a dual release as well, then I think that more people would have been able to see it, and frankly, I think that way they would have been able to make more money because there were more people staying at home in a lot of
Yeah,
countries, with the exception of some that were doing better than others. But
I
or
think
even just release it on VOD rather than
Yeah,
just
that's what
HBO
I was
Max.
gonna say. Like, if they released it on premium VOD for like $30 or like £25 or whatever, however much it is, that would have probably made a profit because even if they did release it on HBO Max, it still brings up the question: what about all the international markets? So it's like, what do you do there? Because like, are you releasing it in cinemas there too? Because as we were talking about before, we don't have HBO Max here, and although you guys have Crave, it's like sometimes some of the stuff doesn't even hit
Exactly.
Crave. So it's like, it's a really weird thing. And although I completely agree with you saying that like studios are out of touch and whatnot, I do think at the same time it's kind of like they needed to test the waters, I say. So I can't completely blame them for like trying or like trialing out with Tenet. It's like, oh, let's release this in theaters and see how it goes. But I think because of that, they're essentially doing what you're saying now, and they're like, yeah, we're not doing that with another like $200 million movie, so we'll just kind of do a dual release. And it's like, oh, hey, it's HBO Max, because that way it's doing exactly what you said. It's bringing in new subscribers, and it's also still earning them money internationally or just like in cinemas and theaters for people who do feel comfortable. It's a really weird one. It's really strange.
One thing, like an example of VOD, would be look at something like, and I know this is not remotely on the same level as Tenet or Wonder Woman, but you look at something like Trolls World Tour, right?
Yeah.
That movie, Universal claimed that they made more money off of the VOD release for that than they did off of the entire box office stream of the first film. And I'm gonna go check what the budget was for the first film. Um, so the first film cost $125 million, and it made
Jeez.
346.9 million.
Okay.
And so clearly it was more successful. That's what they're saying, is that it was more successful. So clearly something about that worked. And when you look
Yeah.
at a movie like Trolls World Tour, it's something that it appeals to kids. And so what? A family buys it, one fee, and like a whole family can watch it. But if you were to do something like Tenet, that has more universal appeal because there's going to be a lot more adults that want to watch it, like maybe a lot of people that live by themselves that are willing to pay that price.
Yeah.
So it would be, I think that Tenet would be fairly successful, and I think that over time with that and home media releases, digital home media, like where you can buy it rather than just an expensive rental, I think that would have
Yeah.
been the smartest decision. And hell, they could have had it in theaters as well. But
Yeah.
the thing is, like, just have that option there. And I think that it's kind of fucking gross that they didn't give an option like that for Tenet, because it just feels like a studio being like, hey, come see our thing despite the fact that the fucking world's on fire.
Yeah.
Like, come sit in the theater. Like, it's fine, don't worry. But clearly a lot of people didn't buy into that, and I think, once again, they missed a really fucking huge opportunity.
Yeah, I feel like if they wanted to go like fully like theatrical with it, when they realized that it wasn't doing well, I feel like they should have put it on premium VOD then or
Yeah,
something. Just
absolutely. But the thing is,
like,
too, is that, and now this is the one part where I think it's kind of smart that they released it in theaters. This is one thing I will give them credit for in terms of a good business decision. I think that I think it was smart to have it just in theaters because that's going to make the home media sales go through the fucking roof. Because
oh
there's
yeah,
going to be a lot of people, including me and like some of my friends who have their own reasons for not going to a theater. They
hmm
like the two of us as an example. They're gonna make, like, if we buy the 4K Blu-ray, they're gonna make like $60 off of us because buying that would be $30 a piece. I know Warner's not
yeah,
gonna profit all of that because stores and manufacturing costs, but they'd still be getting quite a pretty penny if
Oh yeah, for
if
sure.
people went out, bought home media, people rented on services like Google Play, iTunes, anything like that. I I do think that is a smart decision, but I also think that if they were to do a dual release, like pay premium and watch in theaters, then there'd be a lot more people willing to just pirate it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the issue. It's because there's, like, with every good idea, there's also, like, two negatives to every positive, really. Because it's like, oh, yeah, release it in theaters, and then it might do well, but at the same time, it might bomb, and then people won't go and see it. But if you release it on VOD, people might see it, and it might be like a Trolls World Tour, but at the same time, it could completely flop, and people won't buy into the expensive price tag, and it will be like freely available to pirate online. So it's just like
What's Sorry, go on.
Oh no, what were you saying? Sorry.
I have like a hypothetical sort of situation.
Oh no, go on. No, that's all I was gonna say, really.
See, I think what might this is like a big reach as well. What might happen is movie making companies will buy cinemas.
Well, no, that's a thing that's actually happening. So it was illegal for a long time because back in the old days, like cinemas were owned by like corporations, like movie corporations, like
Yeah, like Paramount,
like
Paramount owned
yeah,
one at one point.
yeah, it was like really shady, and then that stopped because it basically turned into a monopoly where it was like, oh, we can only show our films. But there was
Right.
actually a law that passed about 4 or 5 months ago, which makes that legal again, which is frankly fucking terrifying because that
Yeah.
means Disney can buy up theaters which will only show Disney films and nothing else. And in the current,
terrifying.
in the current reality, in the current landscape, when you go and look at films like from a year ago, all that was really in cinemas anyway to begin with were Disney films. It's like you get the latest Avengers film, and you'll get the latest Pixar film, and then you'll get the latest like Disney animation film, and
You do
then
Star
now
Wars
you'll
films.
you'll get your Star Wars films,
Yeah.
you'll get your Fox films now because they own 20th Century Fox, and that terrifies me. The like feeling that we'll only get Avengers and Star Wars in cinemas and nothing else. That makes me
I'm not
really
excited
sad.
for Odeon cinemas to be turning into the Disney Plus watching rooms.
Yeah, it is
Or whatever
gross.
what do you think they would call it?
I don't know. It's just like
Disneyland.
Disneyland, Disney Watch. I don't know.
Come on, kids, we're
Oh,
going to
fuck.
Disneyland.
It will have to have Disney in the title. We know that.
It's like
So like we'd have Disney would own one.
Disney Cinema.
Paramount would definitely own some cinemas somewhere.
Yeah, so it would just be gross, and I really hope that that doesn't become a reality. But with the recent law or bill changing, I'm just like, yeah, that's probably gonna happen.
And
Which is gross.
with the cinema companies actually like losing money, they would take a deal like that.
Oh,
because
yeah.
it's like the best way to get out of like debt. And
Yeah, the
stuff like that.
crippling
So,
debt that they're in. It's
like
like
Disney will go, oh, here's some Mickey bucks.
Mickey.
Go buy yourself
bucks.
go buy yourself a sanctioned Mickey shake.
Heil Mickey.
And do you know an
Oh.
example that I'm thinking of like, because as we've seen, Disney's kind of gatekeeping their stuff.
Oh yeah, like the
Like-
Disney Vault.
No, like what I mean though when I say that is like with the pandemic and the way that movies are being released. So there's quite a few Fox films that haven't been released, like between Searchlight and 20th Century Studios as it is now. Like you get something like Antlers, like that horror movie produced by Guillermo del Toro, or you get movies coming out like the Bob's Burgers movie, like cheap movies. And I just don't fucking understand why, for the time being, they couldn't release them on VOD. Because
No.
like if Trolls World Tour can be successful with a budget of like 90 to 100 million and a marketing cost of about 30 million, why can't something like a fucking Bob's Burgers movie that's probably being animated in Flash, like why couldn't that make a profit?
I think I'd watch the movie as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like you see what I mean? Like, but it's also a tricky situation because we don't want to lose theaters. And it seems like
Yeah.
as like the further we're having this conversation, it seems like we're really getting nowhere with it because there's so many cons to these positives.
Yeah, there's no real answer. There's no clear method of winning really, because like I was saying before, for every pro there's two cons. There's no right or wrong way to do it. And like, yeah, personally, if like 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 in terms of films I'm personally anticipating, the only one that really sticks to mind is Edgar Wright's upcoming film, Late Night in Soho or Last Night in Soho.
Yeah, Last Night in
And
Soho.
Yeah.
yeah, and he's a huge defender of the like theatrical experience as well. He loves going to the cinema, like Edgar Wright, and I really love seeing his films in the cinema. So I would personally absolutely love to see that film in the cinema, but as it's a Sony release, and although Edgar Wright is huge among like film fans and fanatics and stuff, he is not a bankable name like Christopher Nolan. So I'm just worried that the people who do want cinemas to survive won't really have a say because of how meh the box office results for Tenet were. Because Nolan
You know
is
what?
one of the few directors out there who really has power anymore. Because people say stuff like, oh yeah, like Martin Scorsese has power, but that dude had to fight for about 10 years to get The Irishman made, and Netflix were the only people who would make it, because Paramount refused. I think some other studios refused. And Martin Scorsese is one of the biggest, like, name directors of all time. He's made so many films. So if he can't even get a film financed pre-COVID, and then the biggest name in the world, Nolan, flops at the box office, it just makes me sad for people who will like fight and try to defend and like save cinemas, because they won't have a say in it. They won't have a choice, because if Sony, I think Sony are distributing Last Night in Soho, if Wright's like, oh yeah, I want to release it in theaters, they're just going to look at Tenet and like stuff like The New Mutants, and they're going to be like, yeah, but we're not going to make any money, so fuck that, and they'll just put it on like premium VOD, which makes me really sad, because I'd love to see that film in the cinemas. But at the same time, are cinemas even going to be around in March or April, like in terms of like actual new releases? Because they're closed right now in the UK. Cineworld or Regal has closed in the US until Bond comes out, and with no real big releases coming out apart from Wonder Woman, which again is going to be a staggered release and will also be able to be viewed at home. Is there really any incentive for like corporations or the big five to actually put films in cinemas anymore? Sorry if that went on long. I know that was like a long question, but it just makes me worried, because even the people who do want to fight for this stuff, they won't even have a say in it anymore, because the biggest names can't even get a film to like gross what Warner or like Paramount actually want. So the reality is, I do think cinemas are going to die, and this time next year, I don't see many big releases coming out in cinemas unless like COVID just somehow disappears soon.
Well,
which is not going to
say
happen.
COVID's vaccine has like a success rate of like 95%.
Yeah, I heard about that.
So that's pretty hopeful in my eyes. But as far as cinemas, I don't think they're going to be able to open until like at least mid next year.
Yeah, and
not properly anyway.
Yeah, it's so worrying, because I love the theatrical experience. I like over here, like some of those Netflix originals, like The Irishman and Uncut Gems, they were only available in like very niche cinemas. Like I had to travel with some friends to Manchester to a cinema called Home, which is absolutely fantastic, by the way. Shout out Home, to actually see stuff like Uncut Gems and The Irishman in the cinema. And I don't feel like many big studios are going to be like throwing their films to the big cinemas anymore. So it will basically, like, the future of cinema will rest on these smaller places like Home or like whatever, you know, your local theater that's just like family owned, or just not a big corporation like Odeon or AMC or something. And the future of cinema will essentially rest on these small theaters and small chains like hands, and that's like a really sad thing, because I don't see many people going to those. Like, they'll have people who are like huge into film going to them to see like the new art house film, or like if it's like a throwback of like Eraserhead or some shit. But you're not going to get like typical crowds to go to those. So I really feel like in 2 years' time, we'll be looking back at theaters thinking, oh wow, we miss those. Because I don't think in 2 years they're going to be anywhere near as prolific as they have been for my entire life, at least. And it is sad.
And do you know what's one thing that I would like to interject on?
Go on.
I think that no matter what, I think that theaters have been dying. I think that theaters have been steadily getting like more and more fucked over. And I think that COVID's just like the fast forward button for the death of cinemas. And I say that because you look at a company like well, what's one I can think of? You look at a company like I think it was AMC theaters that where this happened. Oh no, it was like mom and pop theaters, like small, independent, and there were companies like Disney that were pushing for like a 60% profit margin, where the theater would
Oh
get
yeah.
40 and Disney because you apparently like typically it's 50-50 or maybe it was 60-40, but it was higher than the usual. And they were saying we're not going to let you screen our movie if you don't play it in your biggest theater and if you don't play it for like 5 weeks straight, and we're also not going to let you have it if you don't give us this cut of the money.
Yeah.
So theaters have been
It's
getting fucked over, and unfortunately, can you guys even remember a time when you go to a movie theater and there wasn't some sort of Disney movie playing in a big theater, like
no.
something like A Wrinkle in Time, Avengers, Star Wars, like any of that shit.
See, it's impossible to go to a cinema without a Disney thing playing now because he owns so many things.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I won't be surprised in like I don't know 10 years if Disney bought a country or something.
If
Like their
Disney
own
buys
army or
Canada, if Disney buys Canada, I'm out.
something.
I'm getting in a fucking
Yeah.
paddle boat.
Disney country.
I'm getting in a
Yeah.
paddle
That's
boat, and
what
I'm
it's
just
called.
like, I'm going to Europe. See ya.
Yeah. It's like
Take the sanctioned Mickey Mouse paddle boat.
Yeah, with my Mickey
yeah.
Mouse brand oars.
But yeah, talking about what you were talking about, I going back to what you were talking about, sorry, Brady. Yeah, I completely remember. It was back in 2015. I have a feeling you're already going to know what I'm talking about. But Star Wars: The Force Awakens was coming out, and
Yes.
there was another film coming out around that time, which was actually shot with like in 65mm. It was a film that really needed the biggest screens and the biggest like venues,
And that film
and that
was The
was
Hateful Eight.
it was The Hateful Eight by Quentin Tarantino, and what happened was that film kind of fucking bombed, and it didn't do well because Disney were like, hey, you've got to screen Force Awakens on all your as many screens as possible, and you've got to give us a big cut of the film, otherwise you won't have it, and you know that you want this film because it's hugely successful because Star Wars will make you money. And then you've got like the other side who's like, we love like Quentin Tarantino and we love like actual films. I'm sorry, Star Wars fans, but we love actual
Um,
films.
Force Awakens was a dookie movie.
I
Oh
like
no.
Force
We're,
Awakens,
we're
but it's
turning
not
in
great.
we're turning into pretentious film boys.
I'm sorry. Well, no, yeah, I retract that statement. Force Awakens is fine,
They're not
but
real films.
they're not real films. They're animated garbage. No,
They're
but anyway.
cartoons to sell toys.
But yeah, so the theaters were like, do we screen this 3 hour long Quentin Tarantino film that is R-rated and has not a niche audience, but it has a very it's like a western,
Not as big as audience as Star
yeah,
Wars.
or do we let Disney basically like take advantage of us and just say, hey, yeah, we're going to screen this everywhere? And obviously we know what happened, and because of that, Tarantino was like really pissed off at Disney, and I can completely understand why. It sucks because the art of cinema is like trying to do these like huge bombastic films, and I'm not talking just like primarily CGI. Like The Hateful Eight is a film that's 3 hours long, shot on 65mm in like really like, I can't remember what like the actual term for it, like it's not widescreen, but it's like very theatrical. It's like, I think Lawrence of Arabia was shot in the same like kind of aspect ratio or the same methods, but it's like a really old school feeling film.
Yeah, it was
And
shot. It was like some sort of.
I can't remember what it's called. But regardless of what it was
Was it
it was,
Panavision, I think? Or...
yes, I think it was Panavision. Yes, it was shot in like a really prestigious method, essentially, that no cinemas do anymore. It was shot on film, which is
And it
becoming.
also released with a fucking intermission.
Yeah, it was that long, but it released with an intermission, and it was like, yeah, Tarantino really wants to kind of bring back this theater movement, and then you've just got like, oh yeah, a digital screening of fucking Force Awakens, and oh yeah, you give us all the money as well, you can get like 10%. Well, obviously they got more than that, but that's what it felt like, and the film bombed because of that, and it's like that. People like Tarantino are the people trying to keep cinema alive. People like Nolan, even if some people don't like Tenet, people can at least appreciate that Chris Nolan is a man who is trying to make original films and trying to give people the theatrical experience they want. And like, Disney are not doing that. Disney are fine with, like, something being in cinemas for a few months and then shitting out a really mediocre home media release, putting it on Disney Plus or something. And I feel like they will be fine with it. Going back to what you were saying about, like, Bob's Burgers and whatnot, like, the Bob's Burgers film, sorry. It's like, they could easily release it, and I don't know why they're not releasing it. Just put it on Hulu in America or something.
Well, I imagine it's also because, well, it's slated to come out in, like, 5 months. But I just mean, like, later down the line, like, why haven't they announced, like, some sort of release date like that?
Yeah. Or even, like, Antlers.
Yeah, Antlers, which was supposed to come out in, like, what, fucking April?
Yeah, it was, like, really early. It was, like, right before lockdown.
Here, I'll go check. Antlers was supposed to... Antlers was supposed to come out April 17th, 2020, and it got pushed to February 19th, 2021.
Yeah, and that probably won't happen either.
And I can't imagine that Antlers is, like, a horrifically expensive movie either. Like,
like, less than 50 million, I'm guessing.
It'd be cool if it could release in a theater, but given the circumstances right now, it does not need to be released in a theater.
No, it's like, again, I'm all for seeing films theatrically. If I have the choice and I feel safe, I will go see a film theatrically as opposed to watching it on demand. Because, like, Booksmart is a good example of that. Because Booksmart was... it released theatrically over here around the same time it came out in America, but they sold the rights to Netflix in Italy or France, so it was a Netflix original there, which means it leaked online and nobody went to see it in the cinema, which really makes me sad because I fucking love Booksmart. But so because of that, the film flopped, but I still had the choice. I was like, I could watch this at home technically, I can use a VPN or some shit, or I can go see it in cinemas. I can go see it in cinemas. And I went to see it in cinemas a few times because I really wanted to support the film. And that's what I mean. If I have the choice, I will still go to see something in cinemas. But in the current climate, I don't really feel like rushing out to see films like The New Mutants on opening day. Even though I did that because I was curious to see how bad it was.
You poor fucking bastard.
But if I had the choice to watch that at home, I would absolutely pay Disney £15 to watch The New Mutants at home in my own comfort, in my own, like, bedroom with a soundbar and whatnot. Just like, it's not like the theatrical experience, but it's the fucking New Mutants. And I feel like some studios are realizing that, like with Paramount, with SpongeBob, they're like, yeah, this film probably isn't going to, like, make too much money because it's an animated film and people are at home right now. So I find it even more confusing why they're waiting until next year to release it in America, like on CBS All Access.
What about like, as we're saying, like, movie studios need to kind of move in this direction, like get nudged into somewhat embracing the fact that the internet is a thing and that you can release movies for a fee and you can make a profit, and I'm not just saying that because I want theaters to die, just because I hate my theater. But like I've been to good theaters. Like when I was in Toronto when I was younger, like at the film festival, that was fucking awesome. I loved it. I loved seeing a film in an audience where people love film. But at the same time, look at what happened in 2018 with Annihilation. Paramount sold the rights of Annihilation to Netflix, and sure, Annihilation flopped. But we've seen before, as mentioned with Trolls World Tour, as mentioned with something like Mulan, but I don't know if Mulan made a profit, but, like, people will pay to watch movies at home.
Yeah, Thingy, another good example of a film that actually did well through premium VOD, Bill and Ted. Bill and Ted did really well, apparently, because I think they like, there was an article, I'll see if I can find it or something, but they were talking about how it made more money than it probably would have made in theaters anyway, if you're accounting for the digital sales, because although Bill and Ted is far more niche than something like Mulan, it still has its audience, and it was kind of that upbeat film that people really needed at that time, because, like, oh yeah, we're just getting news, it's like, oh yeah, the election's underway, and oh god, that's great, and then you've also got the fact that like, yeah, COVID is a thing and people are terrified for their lives, and you just see this, like, really, like, wholesome, upbeat Keanu Reeves buddy comedy film, and you're like, yeah, this is what I want to see. I just want to see something light-hearted that's 90 minutes long, doesn't try to be high art, and then, yeah, it's like, it didn't have a huge budget to begin with, but I think that was a really viable option for that film, because I think it also released in like theaters over here in the UK anyway, but it was like on premium VOD in America and whatnot, so you could buy it and like use a VPN or legally, of course, find it other ways.
Yeah.
But I think it was a viable option for them because it's like the type of film people wanted. Because people don't want like
they sort of use it to their advantage that people know what Bill and Ted is.
Yeah.
And people are gonna go and see it or see it no matter what.
Yeah.
It also helps that it was. It also helps that it was only like a $20-25 million movie.
Yeah, it wasn't hugely expensive. So when you like, wasn't you saying like Trolls World Tour? The original Trolls was like 125 million or something, and if the sequel,
it was like 100 million.
So the sequel was $100 million, not including marketing, that money they'd spent on marketing, and it was still more profitable than the first film, which made like 3 times its budget originally or something, or just around that. So if that film can do well, then a film that's a quarter of the price of Trolls World Tour, a quarter of the budget of Trolls World Tour, can do well as well, because that obviously Bill and Ted are very like family oriented films, so kind of like Trolls World Tour. Anybody can watch the Bill and Ted films. They're not like too offensive or anything, and everyone can enjoy it in their own way. So I feel like for films like that, it works really well. And it was just what people needed at that moment, because people didn't want to go see like really like the New Mutants. Like, who wants to go see a film that was in production hell for 3 fucking years? Nobody wants to go see that. They just want to see something lighthearted and fun.
But if they put the fucking New Mutants on VOD, it likely would have made a profit, because the movie made like 10 million less than its budget, and if you did it through VOD, more people would have gone to see it, like paid to watch it out of curiosity because of the fucking nightmare that it was.
Yeah, not just that.
And then
it's also sorry.
And then it would be a success, and they wouldn't be pointing fingers at theaters being the reason these studios aren't making money.
Yeah, like, not just that, but the fact that with charging the premium VOD prices, like, if, like, with Mulan, for example, we're talking about, like, theaters and whatnot, like, earning a percentage of a cut. With Mulan, Disney earn 100% of the profit, so it's gonna gross a lot more for them. It's gonna be a lot more financially a viable option. But even if they just released it, like, premium VOD, so, like, on Amazon and, like, iTunes and stuff, they're still earning more of a cut from those sales than they would from like a traditional cinema ticket, and they're charging twice or like 3 times the price, because obviously they're under the assumption that like a family is going to see it, so they're making you pay more and they're getting a bigger cut of it. So I don't understand why they're not putting films on VOD.
And also,
I feel like I feel like we're going kind of around in circles, but I assume this is kind of what they're like as. Yeah, I feel like that's what the studios are like as well, because it's like, there's no real situation where they win, and it sucks.
Yeah.
It's really weird.
Does anyone else got anything else to say?
I think Brady was going to say something.
Reaching a 2-hour mark, I think.
And real quickly, the last thing I want to say is that just it's in relation to Mulan.
Okay.
According to the Hollywood Reporter, according to the Hollywood Reporter, they claimed that for the premium VOD, it made a list of the most popular premium VOD movies, and Mulan was the most popular.
I find that really hard to believe.
And yeah, I'm just trusting the Hollywood Reporter, but like, if that's true, then think, for every person that watched it, like every person that paid to watch it on a Disney Plus account, that's like $35 Canadian. So
yeah, I think it was like £25 over here or something.
Let's even say
let's
even say 1 million people watched it in Canada, or like
right,
like just hypothetically, let's say like 1 million people watched it, or 1 million people paid for it. Then you are multiplying 35 by 1 million. You are getting $35 million just from that, and that doesn't include
everywhere else in the world,
bigger countries.
Yeah, and you've got to think how many people are subscribed to Disney Plus, because there's like about like, how many people are subscribed to Disney Plus? Let's see.
It's
too many.
Yeah, too many. You got a good point there.
73.7 million people.
Jeez.
And imagine if even half of them spent the $35 price tag.
If half of them spent that, it'd gross millions, billions. It probably
millions,
gross like
billions,
millions, billions, trillions, quadrillions. But yeah, it would make so much money, and I just don't understand why they're not putting more films on VOD. But at the same time, don't put films on VOD because I want to see them in the cinema. There's no way.
What's your rating for Cinemas Dying?
I give this one a 6 out of 10. It's closer to a 7 than a 5, but yeah.
I give my local cinema a 2 out of 10.
I give my overall cinema experience a 8 out of 10.
I give
I enjoy it most of the time.
In terms of my actual...
No, you go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, in terms of like actual cinema experiences, I love them. I'd give them like genuinely like an 8 out of 10. I think my local cinema it's a bit shit, but if you venture out to other cinemas, it's perfectly fine. I hope they don't die, but I don't want to feel I don't want to live in a fantasy world where I'm like, oh, everything's going to be fine, because the reality of it is, in 2 years they probably won't be around. That's how I'm seeing things. Major cinema chains anyway. Like the small theaters will probably be around still for like smaller films, but big cinemas are probably going to go away and become a very niche thing, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. Well, I think this is us now.
Podcast.
Does anyone else have anything like final messages for the viewers?
Subscribe to Leon Talks Film. We upload there a lot, and when I say we, I mean me.
We might. I was thinking we could do an episode together. Or I just pop on. Hey, I'm the guy from the podcast.
Hell yeah! As soon as like restrictions, like lockdown restrictions are down, I'm down for that. That'd be fun. It's just I was kind of joking when I promoted my channel, but make sure everyone stays safe. Like, don't like, even though we've been talking about as long as like your cinema socially distanced and whatnot, like right now, don't go to cinemas. Just don't do it. Because
put your safety first.
Yes, because like I understand it's like, I feel safe. And when I was going to cinemas, I felt safe because it was like a few hundred cases a day. In the UK currently, we're getting 30,000 plus new cases a day.
Which is ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. So, do you really think it's safe going into a room which even like 200 people over the course of a week have went into, if we say that?
Yeah, that's not safe at all.
It's not. So don't go to theatres. Protect yourself and make sure you're staying safe in these fucking awful times. I did really quickly want to say, sorry about not talking about Dancer in the Dark in this episode. Like, we completely brushed over that before. So we had some issues, like we couldn't really find out a time for everybody to speak about that film. So we kind of we were like, we'll talk about it another time. And then we had the idea.
We was gonna do the episode of SpongeBob and then Dancer in the Dark, but because Dancer in the Dark's the more important thing that everyone wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
We just took SpongeBob and did that anyway.
Yeah, and we thought this would be like 30 minutes to an hour long, and then theatre talk kind of. It got very.
Well,
and then we just went in circles for like a good
30 minutes.
Yeah,
but
this is much shorter than any the other two.
Mason's gonna have a field day editing this.
Yeah.
There's gonna be so much. There's gonna be so much this conversation that's just gone.
Yeah.
No, I don't normally cut out like any conversation.
You know what? Feel free if it loops around. Feel free.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Dancer in the Dark will be coming whenever the next episode comes around. We'll also we'll talk about something else as well. So apologies for not actually.
I wanted to say actually we should talk about Into the Spider-Verse.
Ooh, that's actually a good pick
because it's out on Netflix now. So
I wouldn't mind rewatching Into the Spider-Verse. I have the 4K Blu-ray, so Mamma mia, spicy meatball.
Maybe I'll have to sneak onto your podcast.
Hell yeah. But more importantly, I want to give a quick teaser, because we've never really explained what the first episode was going to be, and now that Brady's here, I feel like we should kind of explain it for the future, just to give people a bit of a teaser in anticipation. It could be the next time he's on. It could be in 6 months' time.
It could be in 10 years.
Yeah, but the film we were originally going to start the podcast with was Kevin Smith's Tusk, a truly bizarre and polarizing film. And I am very hyped to talk about that film eventually, mainly because Brady actually has a story regarding Tusk, which I won't get into now.
Which we're going to ask him to keep to himself.
Yeah, keep to yourself, even though I already know it.
I'm amazed this is the first time on the podcast you've told me to keep my mouth shut.
No, but yeah, so that will be happening in a future episode. We'll probably talk about Into the Spider-Verse and Dancer in the Dark next episode, and then yeah, we'll just see how things progress from there. But yeah,
We'll do something.
I don't really have much else to say. Just stay safe and don't watch Sponge on the Run. I've changed my mind. I don't want people to see that.
Brady, is there anything else you want to add?
I'm gonna go make some hamburgers, and I'm gonna go to bed.
Delicious.
And
I might go make some chicken nuggets or something.
Oh fucking A.
I think I'm gonna finish Euphoria maybe again for a second time. I don't know. I just really love that show.
The only thing I have to say to whoever the fuck is listening is wear your mask. Always wear condoms, and make sure to keep good hygiene.
Hell yes.
More important stuff. This is Mason, Leon, and Brady signing off from the podcast.
Make sure to drink water. Make sure to drink water.
Stay hydrated.
Stay hydrated, gang.